7 days before the college entrance exam, Linji posted a photo of the northern lights in the class group chat. Green ribbons of light filled the night sky, as if someone had set the whole heavens ablaze. She said, "The last group wish before the exam, anyone who misses it will regret it." In her past life, Sunyan started saving all 47 of her classmates from this very sentence. This time, she stared at the photo for a long time, then simply opened the refund page. "Your 7-day polar tour has been successfully cancelled." The phone screen dimmed, reflecting her 18-year-old face. "I wasn't caught in the cold wind at the Northern Frontier Airport and didn't come down with a fever." I didn't hear Luchin say, "You're always so presumptuous," by the rooftop railing at the teacher appreciation banquet, nor did he see the class's unquestioning hatred in Linji's tear-swollen eyes. The group chat quickly exploded. "Sunyan, did you cancel your ticket? Are you kidding me? It's all booked, and now you want to cancel." Linji finally managed to snag a spot on a Northern Lights town tour. Word is the aurora forecast is off the charts these days. How auspicious it is to watch the Northern Lights and make a wish before the college entrance exam. Linji emerged after a few seconds. She sent a grinning emoji with her hand covering her mouth. "Sunyan, you're not actually worried about messing up the college entrance exam, are you?" A roar of laughter erupted below. "Some say she is too tense. Some say she lives like a test-taking machine. Some people say the college entrance exam is in prison. It's your mindset in the final days that truly matters." Sunyan stared at those familiar profile pictures. In her previous life, she had also tried to persuade. She posted screenshots of the polar town's weather for the past week, return flights, layover times, and space weather warnings all in the group chat, reminding them that polar routes are unstable, and with only 7 days left until the college entrance exam, they can't leave the return trip to the last minute. No one is listening. Linji said she was a buzzkill. Luchin said she was jealous. Someone in the back row joked, "If anything goes wrong, it's none of your business." Okay, the whole class is laughing. Later, they really didn't make it back on time. The northern Aurora town has been hit by the strongest solar magnetic storm in a decade. Flights for the return trip are being cancelled one after another. Communication at the polar airport is abnormal. Satellite phones are queued up, and the travel agency manager is unreachable. All 47 students in the class were trapped in a frozen, snowy wasteland, clutching their exam admission tickets in their hands. From across thousands of miles of icy wilderness, they called Sunyan, sobbing as they dialed. Even though Sunyan had been scolded by them the whole way, she still softened her heart. She begged her father to use the backup plane from their family's polar scientific expedition transport company, spending a fortune to coordinate flight routes, alternate airports, satellite communications, and an emergency crew, forcing a way through the storm to bring them back. "I landed at 3 a.m., entered the exam hall at 9 a.m. They made it in time for the college entrance exam." Sunyan, however, had a hypoglycemic episode and fainted outside the exam hall after coordinating rescue efforts through the night. During the last half hour of the math exam, everything went black before her eyes, but after the scores came out, Linji didn't do well on the exam. At the appreciation dinner for teachers, she sobbed so hard that her shoulders trembled. "If Sunyan hadn't insisted on chartering a plane in the middle of the night and putting us through all that trouble, why would I have had a headache during the exam? I could have had a good night's sleep at the hotel." She just loves to be in the spotlight, insisting on proving that only she can save everyone. Luchin sat beside Linji, remaining silent for a long time. Sunyan looked at him, waiting for him to say something fair, but he said, "Sunyan, you really are too domineering." Later, the accusations at the dinner table grew more frequent. Some say she didn't save the person completely. Some people said that since she had the ability, why didn't she arrange a charter flight earlier? Some say her family is so wealthy that she could have just said the word, but instead, she made everyone suffer through a whole night of flying. Sunyan retreated to the edge of the rooftop. The wind pressed her skirt against her legs. Luchin reached up to pull her. No, it's not." His hand pressed heavily on her shoulder, as if trying to push her down, out of everyone's sight. "Sunyan, go apologize to Linji, and we'll let this slide." Sunyan said, "I saved her." Luchin frowned, but she didn't do well on the exam. Suddenly, Sunyan felt it was absurd. She saved 47 people, yet what she got in return wasn't a thank you, but she didn't do well on her exams. Luchin murmured in a low voice, "Can't you just take a step back?" But the edge of the rooftop offered no room to step back. As her foot slipped into the void, she heard Linji scream and finally saw Luchin panic. He didn't want her to die. He simply felt that she ought to give in, as it has been countless times before. When she opened her eyes again, she was back on the day Linji posted the aurora photos. A private chat from Luchin popped up. "Why did you cancel your ticket?" Sunyan didn't reply. Luchin posts again, "Linji just wants everyone to lighten up. Don't be a killjoy. If the whole class is going and you're the only one not going, it will make everyone feel awkward." Sunyan glanced at these 3 sentences and let out a faint smile. In her past life, she had gone along despite her unease, all because she was afraid of making things awkward for everyone, worried about displeasing Luchin, and scared that Linji would call her Unsociable, in the end, she saved a group of people who, standing by her corpse, still felt she owed them an apology. This time, she replied with just 4 words, "Wishing you all the best." Luchan called shortly after. Sunyan hung up. He hit again. She kept dismissing it. The third time, the phone barely rang once before she blocked it directly. The world fell silent. The June wind outside the window is scorching hot. A parent rode by downstairs on an electric scooter, with a transparent umbrella tucked into the basket. A small red tag reading success in the imperial exams hung from the handle. Sunyan placed his phone face down on the table, then he stood up, took out his admission ticket, ID card, black gel pen, 2B pencil, eraser, and ruler from his backpack, and placed each item one by one into a clear plastic file folder. The document bag is very light, but it was only when she touched it that her fingertips truly warmed. She had already secured her guaranteed admission qualification. The college entrance exam was just to give herself closure. But in her last life, they nearly took even that closure away from her. This time, she wouldn't go to the polar region, nor will I buy a return ticket for anyone's wishes anymore. The next morning during morning reading, Linji printed out the itinerary for the Aurora group and posted it next to the blackboard at the back of the classroom. The title is beautifully written, Northern Lights 7-Day Exam Wish Journey. Below is a line of small text, entrust your wishes to the universe, and leave your stress behind in the snowfield. When Sunyan entered the classroom, a crowd had already gathered in the back row. Wow. Day 1 fly to the northern capital, Day 2 hop on a snow coach to the Northern Lights town, wish-making ceremony on the 3rd night, free photography on the 4th day. On the 6th day, I headed back and arrived home just the night before the college entrance exam. Perfect timing. This was not a spur-of-the-moment decision by Linji. She had already shared the materials in the parents group 3 days in advance. The travel agency packaged this tour as the college entrance exam students' Aurora Psychological Stress Relief Study Camp, with the promotional flyer reading, Release Anxiety, Stabilize Your Mindset, Return Trip Guaranteed, and full-service Chinese-speaking tour guide. There were also a few screenshots posted of so-called interviews with top-scoring students from previous years. Some people say that they went to see the Aurora before the college entrance exam, and came back with an incredibly calm mindset. Some say, cramming in the last few days is pointless. Getting into the right mindset is the real key to improving your score. Many parents were hesitant at first. Kalinji's mom said in the group chat, in the final few days, the most important thing for the child is to maintain the right mindset. Don't let the tension snap. Luchen's mother chimed in, having the whole class go together, looking out for each other, is actually better than leaving the child at home alone to overthink things. The travel agency also issued a return guarantee, promising that if there are weather delays, we will coordinate rescheduling immediately. The voices of opposition gradually faded away. In the end, someone like Sunyan, who refunded their ticket, ended up being labeled as not a team player or too uptight. Someone saw her and deliberately raised their voice. It's a pity that someone won't go. Linji stood by the blackboard, holding a whiteboard marker in her hand. Her hair was tied in a high ponytail, her school jacket zipped only halfway, and when she smiled, her eyes crinkled into crescents, making her seem nothing more than an innocent, pretty girl. Sunyan, it's still not too late to back out, I asked the tour guide. There's one alternate spot left. The entire class turned their eyes in unison toward Sunyan. In her past life, she would always instinctively explain herself under that gaze. She would say the polar return is unstable, that a transcontinental flight right before the college entrance exam is too risky, and that the final few days shouldn't be so disruptive. Then Linji would let out a soft sigh. Sunyan, I know you're a top student, but not everyone can breeze through without needing to adjust their mindset like you do. The whole class would side with Linji this time. Sunyan simply put down his backpack. No regrets. A flicker of hesitation passed across Linji's smile. Are you really not going? No, then don't wait until we see the northern lights and then complain that we didn't bring you along. No. Linji looked at her, as if realizing for the first time that Sunyan was not so easy to handle. Luchan sat in the window seat of the 3rd row. He turned his head, his brows furrowed. Sunyan, you don't have to do this. Sunyan opened the Chinese dictation notebook. How am I? Luchan lowered his voice. We were all going out to relax before the college entrance exam, and you suddenly cancelled your ticket, making it look like Linji did something wrong. Sunyan looked up at him. In her past life, she liked Luchan so much that if he said a single word of displeasure, she would spend the whole night reflecting on herself. Looking back now, she only felt a sense of unfamiliarity. It turned out Luchan had been like this from the very beginning. He didn't care whether things were right or wrong, only whether Linji was wronged. She didn't do anything wrong, Sunyan said. Luchen's expression softened a little. The next second, he heard Sunyan continue, neither did I. The classroom fell silent for half a second. Linji chuckled softly. All right, let's not let me and Sunyan ruin the mood. Everyone has their own choices, right? She spoke softly, yet she deliberately understated the words, because of me. Sure enough, the girl next to her immediately chimed in, Linji, you're just too nice. Some people not only refuse to fit in, but also insist that everyone else accommodate them. Don't bother with her. When the time comes, we'll take pictures of the aurora and post them in the group chat. Let her be jealous. Sunyen didn't respond. She lowered her head and wrote out the final passage of the Red Cliff Rhapsody from memory. When the homeroom teacher walked in, the classroom was still buzzing about the polar expedition group. He tapped the podium. Quiet. Lower the volume a bit. The homeroom teacher glanced at the itinerary behind and frowned deeply. With only 7 days until the college entrance exam, are you really going out? Linji immediately stood up. Teacher, we've all informed our parents, the itinerary is well established, and the travel agency says this is a stress relief tour specifically designed for college entrance exam students. She pronounced the words psychological stress relief with great seriousness. Besides, we'll be back by the evening of the 6th day, so it won't interfere with the exam at all. The homeroom teacher's expression remained stern. Cross-border travel right before the college entrance exam, any delay could affect the test. I personally wouldn't recommend it. The classroom quieted down a bit. Linji's eyes were slightly reddened. But teacher, our parents have already signed the consent form. We just want to reset a bit, not go out to have fun. A classmate murmured in agreement. That's right, teacher. The parents have already agreed. The travel agency offers a return trip guarantee. With all this stress, there's nothing wrong with going out to unwind, right? The homeroom teacher looked at them with a grim expression. I can't make decisions for you parents, but let me say this up front. The college entrance exam is no small matter. Whoever makes their own choice must take responsibility for it. When these words were spoken, someone in the classroom laughed. Don't worry, teacher, we're not kids. Sunyen doesn't need to handle it if something goes wrong. The last sentence, nobody knows who said it. The laughter in the classroom grew even louder. Sunyen looked up. Could you repeat that, please? The laughter stopped. A boy in the back row froze. What? You just said I wouldn't be held responsible if anything went wrong. Sunyen took out her phone and opened the voice recording app. Could you say that again? The boy's face turned red. Are you out of your mind? Sunyen looked at him calmly. Wasn't that what you said? Linji quickly smoothed things over. Sunyen, don't be so sensitive. Everyone's just joking. Is it also a joke to travel across continents to make a wish at the polar region before the college entrance exam? Linji's smile faded. Luchin stood up. Sunyen, could you stop being so sarcastic? Sunyen put away his phone. Just making sure. She was staring at the guy in the back row. Go by yourselves, have fun on your own, and come back on your own. Don't come looking for me if something goes wrong. The laughter in the classroom stopped abruptly, as if someone had cut it off. Linji bit her lip, her eyes reddening. Luchin couldn't sit still any longer, just as expected. Sunyen, apologize. Sunyen smiled. Luchin, he was stunned for a moment. This was the first time Sunyen had called him by his full name in the classroom. Are you going too? Luchin frowned. Of course, then keep Linji safe. Luchin's expression changed. A flicker of panic passed through Linji's eyes. Sunyen had already lowered her head and continued reciting the text. This minor stir was soon eclipsed by the excitement of the imminent departure. After school in the afternoon, Linji posted a photo of a suitcase on her Moments, a pink suitcase, a white scarf, and beside them, a copy of Essential Ancient Poems for the college entrance exam. The copy is, Go to the End of the World and Entrust Your Wishes to the Aurora. Luchin quickly liked it, then shared it in the class group. While some are still stuck in self-doubt, we've already hit the road. Cheers erupted from below. Sunyen did not like the post. She put her phone aside and opened her math error notebook. After finishing a set of function problems, she finally turned on her computer and glanced at the space weather forecast. The curve on the screen is slowly rising. Solar active region number, flare class, geomagnetic disturbance index, polar ionospheric disturbance risk. In her past life, she looked up each of these words one by one until the early hours of the morning. At that moment, she was burning with anxiety, feeling as if every number was a thorn piercing her heart. This time, after reading it, she closed the webpage. Then, on the calendar, she circled June 7th and read, the college entrance exam, her own college entrance exam. The airport was bustling on the day the whole class set off. Sunyen saw this later on her Moments. Linji stood in the middle of the departure hall, dressed in a white down jacket, smiling like a grand farewell. The students gathered around her, holding up their boarding passes for a group photo. Someone also took out their admission ticket and placed it next to their passport. Caption, an exam admission card in one hand, a boarding pass in the other. This is what it means to be young and wild. Sunyen was helping her mother wash fruit in the kitchen when she saw that photo. Mother leaned in for a look and frowned. Did your class actually go? Yeah. Going that far before the college entrance exam is way too risky. Sunyen placed the strawberries into The white porcelain bowl, they said it's called making a wish. The mother sighed. If wishes worked, what would be the point of an admission ticket? Sunyan smiled. Mom, come with me to check out the exam venue tomorrow. Okay. Mother was taken aback for a moment, then nodded. Okay. In my past life, the night before the college entrance exam, my mother waited at home the entire night, unable to reach Sunyan by phone. She could only refresh the flight status over and over again later, when Su Nien came home in the early hours of the morning. Her face was as pale as paper, and she didn't even have the strength to take a shower. Her mother's eyes reddened with heartache, but at that time, Su Nien was still busy making sure Linji and the others had all their admission tickets ready, and now she could finally go check out the exam venue, organize her stationery, and enjoy a peaceful dinner. Just like any other ordinary test taker, the class group chat has been buzzing non-stop ever since. They landed in the northern capital. We're here, the sky is so blue, the air feels like ice-cold spring water. Sunyan really missed out by not coming. This is what true relaxation before the college entrance exam looks like. The next day, they took a snow coach to Aurora Village. Outside the window stretched vast snowfields, with coniferous forests in the distance, and the sky hung low like a piece of pale blue glass. Lin Ji sat by the window and live-streamed the whole way. Guys, seriously, don't push yourself too hard before the college entrance exam. See, this is what I meant by an energy field. I believe that when you come to such a pure place, your mindset will definitely improve. The classmates were cheering on the sidelines. Linji, make a wish for me to get all the math multiple choice questions right. Wish for me that the English essay topic will be about environmental protection. Wish for me that I don't run into conic sections. Linji doubled over. With laughter, Luchin sat beside her, holding her thermos flask. Someone asked in the bullet comments, "Is there someone missing from your class?" Linji glanced at the camera, her smile fading slightly. Sunyan didn't show up. She probably prefers staying home alone and grinding through practice problems. People immediately started spamming in the live stream. All straight A students are like that. No sense of romance. Still cramming for the college entrance exam. Aren't you exhausted? She will regretted. Sunyan came across the screen recording after dinner. After reading it, she turned off her phone. Father was sitting at the other end of the sofa, reviewing the Polar Logistics Company's route documents. Noticing Sunyan was silent, he asked, "Those classmates of yours, are they really gone?" "Yeah." Father was silent for a moment. "You were right not to go. The northern routes have been a bit unstable these past couple of days." Sunyan looked up. "You know, our company handles Polar Scientific Expedition Transport, so we get space weather warnings much earlier than civil aviation or tourist groups." Father took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. "The solar active region has been pretty intense the last couple of days, which could affect polar communications. Regular tourists don't always understand that, and travel agencies aren't always willing to emphasize it too strongly." Sun Yen's throat tightened slightly. In her previous life, it was from her father that she learned of the risks, but by then it was already too late. She begged her father through tears to find a way out. Her father spent the whole night on the phone in his study, arranging a flight crew, fuel, and communication permits. In the end, though they managed to bring her back, the company suffered heavy losses from the last-minute charter flight and route support. Sun Yan only learned later that her father had nearly forfeited an entire quarter's profits from the Polar Project for that rescue. The rescued person only remarked, if she had the means. "All along, why didn't she arrange it sooner, Dad?" Sun Yan suddenly spoke. Father looked at her. "If someone were stranded in the polar region, but they weren't a client of our company or on a trip I organized, would you save them?" Father was taken aback. "It depends on the situation. Life-threatening emergencies are a different story, of course, but if it's just about catching an exam, a flight, or a schedule, you can't just save someone on a whim." "Why? A polar charter isn't a taxi." Father said, "You need a flight route, a flight crew, communication clearances, and a diversion plan. Miss any one of those, and it's not a rescue. It's a gamble with lives." He put his glasses back on the table. "Other people can gamble with the 7 days before the college entrance exam, but our family shouldn't have to clean up their mess." Sun Yan lowered her head. "What if I beg you?" The father looked at her, his gaze softening. "Nian Nian, you rarely asked me for anything before." Sun Yan's fingers tightened. Father sighed. "You can help others, but don't end up paying the price yourself, especially when they knew the risks and went ahead anyway." Sun Yan softly hummed an acknowledgement. "I've got it." On the third night, the aurora came. The class group chat was completely flooded after 10 p.m. Photo after photo, green, blue, purple ribbons of light surged through the night sky, like waves turned upside down. The classmates stood in the snow, with wooden cabins, a campfire, and the pitch Black ridges in the distance behind them. Linji, dressed in a white down jacket, pressed her palms together and closed her eyes, making a wish toward the camera. Caption: the universe will hear the sound of your efforts. All likes below. Luchan posted a moment on WeChat. In the photo, Linji stood beneath the aurora, her profile beautifully illuminated by the green light. Copy: may all your wishes come true. Sunyan's fingers paused when she saw this. In his previous life, Luchan had also sent this exact message. She was sitting in the last row of the snow bus, clutching motion sickness pills in her hand, her stomach churning violently. She thought Luchan was talking about her. Only later did I realize that the person in the photo was never her. Sunyan swiped past her moments and continued memorizing the English essay template. At 11:47 p.m., someone posted a video in the class group chat. They stood in the middle of the snowfield, shouting their wishes at the aurora. I will make it ashore. I will get into Nanjing University. I will crush the math exam. I will get out of this lousy city. Linji was the last to call out. Her voice was scattered by the wind, yet still sweet and clear. I hope our whole class will be blessed by the universe. The video erupts in cheers. Sunyan stared at the screen. She knew it would be tonight, when the aurora was at its most breathtaking. That was when danger struck. At 1:20 a.m., in the hotel lobby of the Northern Lights town, the flight board showed widespread delays for the first time. They didn't pay attention back then. Some have just finished their hot chocolate, others are still editing photos, and a few are holding their phones, letting their families know they're safe. The guide stood by the fireplace, smiling as he said, well, it's polar weather, delays are normal, so no need to worry, everyone. Linji also said, it's okay, we're not heading back until the 6th day. Luchan draped the scarf over her shoulders. Don't worry, the hotel's Wi-Fi went down once around 3 in the morning. The front desk explained that it was due to line maintenance. By the next morning, cancellations began appearing on the return flight list. At first, there were only 2 shifts, then comes Class 4 at 3:00 p.m. The entire page of flights from the capital of the northern frontier to the connecting city was highlighted in red. Cancelled, cancelled, cancel. Communication link anomaly, awaiting ATC confirmation. Polar return route suspended. The class group chat finally quieted down for a few minutes. Then, someone posted, what's going on? Wasn't the flight supposed to be stable? Where's the tour guide? The guide said it was just a temporary adjustment and told us not to panic. Can we go back the day before the college entrance exam? No one answered. Sunyan was at the entrance of the exam center when she saw these messages. Her mother accompanied her to check out the exam venue. A red banner hangs at the school gate. Honor the exam. Stay calm and composed. Traffic police were maintaining order at the gate as parents held umbrellas. Some kept reminding their children to bring their ID cards, while others slipped copies of exam admission tickets into the inner pockets of their kids' backpacks. The sunlight was very bright. A hot wind blew over, carrying the scent of plane tree leaves. Sunyan stood outside the school gate, looking at the exam venue map. Building 3, 4th floor. Exam room 12. She took a photo of it with her phone and then wrote it down again on the back of the paper admission ticket. Mother said, we'll leave an hour and a half early tomorrow morning. Okay, eggs, steamed buns, and millet porridge for breakfast. Okay, everything is ordinary. This is what the day before the college entrance exam should really feel like. It's not about crying at a polar airport while fighting over a satellite phone, not searching for return trip information in a foreign language broadcast. It's not about holding a stack of admission tickets and double-checking over and over to make sure no one is missing. My phone buzzed. Linji sent a private message. Sunyan, are you there? Sunyan glanced at it but didn't reply. 10 seconds later, another message came through. Does your dad know someone on the polar route? Sunyan stared at that line of text. In the previous life, Linji had asked the same question, but back then, her tone was even more aggrieved. Sunyan, we're really going to miss the college entrance exam. Can you help everyone out? Okay, I know you'll find a way. Now, she even skipped the help everyone part, as if she was asking for a resource that was rightfully hers. Luchen's message popped up right after. Sunyan, stop acting up. Now is not the time to be willful. The college entrance exam is a matter for the whole class. Sunyan stood outside the examination hall, surrounded by a steady stream of test takers and their parents. It was their own choice to go to the polar region. It was them who mocked her for being timid. They clearly said that if anything happened, she wouldn't be held responsible. But when something really goes wrong, their first reaction is still, Sunyan, why haven't you come to save me yet? She did not reply to Luchan. Instead, open the class group. The group chat has gone chaotic. All flights cancelled. The guide said the capital's airport was also packed with stranded tourists. We absolutely have to get home by tomorrow evening, otherwise. What would we do about the college entrance exam? Linji, didn't you say we had enough time? This Sentence was posted but quickly retracted. Linji didn't say anything in the group chat. Her private messages to Sunyan kept coming one after another. Sunyan, I know people weren't very nice with their words before, but now is really not the time to be petty. Can you ask your dad to help find out? It wouldn't hurt to just ask. Luchan called directly. Sunyan hung up. He continued to hit. She kept dismissing it. The third time, she answered. The wind was howling on the other end of the line, mixed with the noise of a crowd and airport announcements. Luchen's voice tightened. Sunyan, you finally picked up. Sunyan remained silent. Luchen seemed to be holding back his anger. Our return flight has been cancelled. The tour guide said it'll be at least 2 days before we can get on a standby list. Doesn't your dad have connections with Polar Route Resources? Get him to arrange a charter flight. Not a request, it's arranged. Sunyan asked softly. What gives you the right? Luchen was stunned. What do you mean? Why, the whole class is stuck here, and the college entrance exam is about to start. So what? So you can't just stand by and do nothing? Sunyan gave a slight smile. Luchen, is anyone in critical condition right now? There was a pause on the other end of the line. What do you mean? If someone's life is in danger, you can call the police, contact local rescue services, or reach out to the airline and travel agency, Sunyan said. But if it's just about missing the college entrance exam, that's not turning a blind eye to someone in need. That's your travel risk. Luchen's breathing became noticeably heavier. Sunyan, when did you become so cold-blooded? Cold-blooded, in her past life, she dragged her fever-ridden body to see Luchen and Linji off on the chartered flight, and he said she had finally learned to be sensible in this life. She wouldn't bail him out, and he called her cold-hearted. Making a wish at the polar region before the college entrance exam was your choice, Sunyan said, and canceling the tickets is my choice. Do you have to settle the score right now? Yes, she answered too quickly, leaving Luchen momentarily speechless. Sunyan continued, I warned you about the risks before. You said I was a buzzkill, said I was overthinking, and told me not to worry if something went wrong. There was a second of silence on the other end of the line. Luchen obviously remembered as well, but he quickly said, it was just a joke. I took it seriously. Sunyan, Luchen, you protect Linji. Those words pierced through the phone line like a needle. Luchen's voice suddenly dropped. What are you being sarcastic about? Didn't you want to go yourself? Sunyan looked at the exam venue map at the school gate. Then come back yourself. She hung up the phone. Then I blocked Luchen as well. Her mother stood by, watching her with concern. Something happened to a classmate. No. Sunyan put away her phone. Their flight was cancelled, and they want my dad to charter a plane. Mother's expression changed. Don't worry about it. Sunyan was taken aback. Mother rarely speaks so directly. Nyan, your dad's company charter isn't something you can just call up on a whim. The college entrance exam is a big deal, but it's the parents' responsibility to worry about, not something a kid like you should carry on your shoulders. Sunyan lowered her head and hummed in agreement. I know. Mother reached out and touched her hair this time. Just focus on your own exam. These words fell softly, like loosening a thread that had been taut in Sunyan's heart for so long. In her past life, no one ever said that to her. Everyone is saying, Sunyan, you need to figure something out. Sunyan, doesn't your family have the connections? Sunyan, you can't just sit back and do nothing. Sunyan, please save everyone. But no one said, Sunyan, you also have to take the college entrance exam. In the evening, the class group chat completely exploded. The Polar Town was in worse shape than they had imagined. Communication disruptions from the solar magnetic storm, compounded by a local blizzard warning, kept delaying their return flight. The airport in the northern capital was packed with stranded travelers, with a standby list stretching to hundreds of names. Their town was still a 6-hour snowmobile ride away from the capital's airport. The travel agency initially said they would arrange a car later. They changed their story, saying the road was temporarily closed. Later on, the person in charge simply went off the grid. In the hotel lobby, all 47 classmates were crowded together. Someone is crying while holding their phone. Someone is calling the parents. Someone was flipping through their passport and admission ticket, and as they did, their hands began to tremble. Linji finally sent a voice message in the group chat. She was crying inconsolably. Don't blame me. Okay, I had no idea this would happen. The tour guide clearly said it was fine. I just wanted everyone to relax before the college entrance exam. After this message was sent, the group fell silent for a brief moment. In a past life, someone would have immediately comforted her. Luchen would say, it's not your fault. Classmates would say, Linji meant well too. Then everyone's gaze turned to Sunyan. But in this life, Sunyan is not in the polar region. No one can shift the blame onto her. After a long silence, someone finally couldn't help but post. But you organized the trip soon. Someone else responded. We said it was too rushed at the time, but you said it was fine. Didn't you say the guide guaranteed we'd make it back? My parents are going out of their minds with worry right now. Linji didn't reply. Luchen posted in the group chat. Now is not the time to point fingers. Let's figure out a way to get back first. I can't get in touch with Sunyan anymore. Someone immediately asked, why can't she be reached? Didn't she cancel her ticket? Can Her dad really chartered a plane, so why were you guys bad-mouthing her before? These words hit me like a bucket of cold water. The group fell silent once again. Sunyan didn't look again. She set her phone to do not disturb and put it in the living room drawer. At 9 in the evening, she finished her shower, dried her hair, and checked her exam supplies 3 times. At 10, she lay down on the bed. The neighborhood outside the window is very quiet. Occasionally a car passed by, its headlights sweeping through the gap in the curtains. Sunyan closed his eyes, yet he still dreamed of the polar airport from his previous life. A biting cold wind seeped in through the gap of the automatic door. Linji curled up in Lu Chen's arms and cried. The students crowded around Sunyan, all talking at once. Sunyan, any news from your dad yet? Wasn't there supposed to be a chartered flight? What if we miss the college entrance exam? Can you push them again? She held the phone, her voice too hoarse to make a sound. Her father said on the other end of the line, Nyan, the weather window is only 40 minutes, and whether we can fly still depends on the final communication clearance. What did she say back then? She said, Dad, please, they can't afford to miss the college entrance exam. Father was silent for a long time, and finally said, okay. That single okay brought them back from the brink, and it also pushed Sunyan herself into the trial that would come later. At this point in the dream, Sunyan's eyes snapped open. The room was pitch black. She reached for the digital clock by her pillow. 3:20 in the morning. No polar airport. No sound of crying. No land sinking. She is at her own home. The college entrance exam is tomorrow. Sunyan slowly exhaled a breath. Then he turned over and went back to sleep. The morning of the first day of the college entrance exam was beautifully sunny. Sunyan woke up at 6:30. Mother has already set out breakfast, millet porridge, eggs, steamed buns, and a small plate of greens. Father didn't go to the office. He sat at the dining table, peeling an egg for her. He was usually very busy, but his egg peeling was clumsy, leaving the egg white pitted and uneven. Sunyan looked at the egg and suddenly smiled. Father felt a little embarrassed. Don't turn your nose up at it. The meaning is still whole. His mother glared at him. It's all broken like this, and you say it's still whole. Sunyan took it. It's pretty good. After finishing breakfast, she checked the document folder. The admission ticket is flat. Here, stationery is here. The water cup has no label. Unwrap the tissue pack. Nothing went wrong. Just before we left, my father's phone rang once. He glanced at it but didn't take it. Sunyan noticed the caller ID. It's an unfamiliar area code from the north. Father hung up the phone, his expression unchanged. Let's go. Sunyan didn't ask. By the time they arrived at the exam center, there was already a large crowd outside the school gate. Some parents were wearing red cheongsams. A father holds up a fan inscribed with "May you pass every exam." Some teachers stood by the roadside, calling their students' names over and over again. The air was thick with warmth, the smell of breakfast, nervousness, and anticipation. Sunyan stood in the crowd and overheard 2 parents whispering beside her. I heard there was a class that went abroad to see the northern lights right before the college entrance exam, but their flight got cancelled and they couldn't make it back. No way, that's just too absurd. What were the parents thinking, taking such a long trip right before the college entrance exam? It's all over the internet now. People are saying the whole class made a wish together. What's the point of wishing? It's not like my admission ticket's gonna fly back to me on its own. Sunyan lowered her head, smoothing the corners of the file folder. The school gate opened. Candidates are now entering the venue. Mobile phones must be turned off and handed over to parents. Sunyan handed the phone to her mother. The moment the screen lit up, she saw that the class group chat had already blown up with over 900 messages. There are still many missed calls. Linji's syncing, belonging to a few classmates. There are even ones from the homeroom teacher. Sunyan barely glanced at it before turning off the screen. Mother took the phone and said in a low voice, "Stop looking, Sunyan looked up and saw the teacher at the school gate checking IDs. When it was her turn, the teacher took her admission ticket. Sunyan, present, ID card. She handed it over. The teacher checked it and gave it back to her. Go to building 3, 4th floor, examination room 12. Thank you, teacher. Sunyan walked through the school gate. The sunlight on the playground was glaring. The tree shadows fell on the concrete path, swaying gently in the wind. Meanwhile, it was still early morning in the northern Aurora town. The lights in the hotel lobby had been on all night. She sat on the floor clutching her exam admission ticket, the cuffs of her white down jacket smudged with dust, her eyes so swollen she could barely open them. The flight board flickered on and off and on. Every time I refresh, there's still no return information for them. As Sunyan wrote down her name, Linji was rummaging through her bag in the airport terminal, searching for a pen. When Sunyan finished sticking the barcode, Lu Chen was still at the front desk asking if there were any charter flights available. When Sunyan opened the Chinese exam paper, someone posted the first line in the class group chat. We really won't make it in time. Lu Chen stood at the front desk, his voice already hoarse. Is there a charter flight available? I'll pay any price. The front desk staff replied in halting Chinese, Sir, due to current polar communication restrictions, private charter applications are in a queue, and takeoff cannot be guaranteed. We're going to take the college Entrance exam. I'm so sorry. Do you have any idea how important the Gaokao is to us? I'm sorry. These 3 words hit the ground like blocks of ice. Luchan turned around and saw everyone looking at him. That gaze suddenly reminded him of Sun Yan. In my past life, it was the same hall. It was the same kind of look, but at that moment, Sun Yan stood in the center of the crowd, bearing all the urgency and panic on their behalf. All he had to do was stay by Lin Ji's side, occasionally furrowing his brow to say, Sun Yan, think of another way. It turns out that without Sun Yan, solutions don't just appear on their own. Lin Ji looked up, her voice trembling faintly. Luchan, is Sun Yan still not answering the phone? Luchan's face turned grim. She blocked me. Someone nearby let out a cold laugh. I'd block them too. Luchan abruptly turned to look. What do you mean? The boy clutched his admission ticket, his eyes red and swollen. What were you all saying about her before we left? That she's a buzzkill, that she's jealous, that she doesn't fit in, and now you suddenly remember to look for her. Another girl also said through tears, Lin Ji, back then my mom wouldn't let me come, but you said the whole class was going and I'd regret it if I didn't. Lin Ji's tears fell. I didn't know it would turn out like this. You didn't know. The girl's voice turned shrill. Sun Yan warned us. She said the return trip was too rushed. And you accused her of overthinking. Lin Ji's face turned pale. Luchan stood in front of her, blocking her way. Enough, what's the point of arguing about this now? Then tell her to send us back. Luchan's Adam's apple shifted, but he couldn't make a sound for a long time. Only sporadic gasps remained in the hall. Someone is crouched in a corner, calling their parents. Mom, I might not make it to Chinese class. The sound of crying seeped through the phone, and everyone around fell silent. Lin Ji clutched her admission ticket tightly, then suddenly looked up at the floor-to-ceiling windows in the hall. Outside the window, the aurora still lingers, a green ribbon of light slashed across the sky, bright almost to the point of cruelty. They once made a wish upon that light, each wish is spoken louder than the last, but now, the universe offered them no answers, it just glows quietly. It's like watching a group of people finally pay the price for their choices. 5 minutes before the Chinese exam began, Sun Yan sat in the examination room. Exam room 12 is on the 4th floor. Outside the window, a tall camphor tree can be seen. When the proctor unsealed the exam envelope, the classroom was so silent that all you could hear was the rustle of paper. Sun Yan held the pen, her palm dry. The bell rang. The exam papers were handed out. She first wrote her name and candidate number, then affixed the barcode. Every move she made was steady. When the essay prompt was revealed, she was briefly taken aback. There was a sentence in the reading material, true choices often mean bearing the consequences. Sun Yan stared at that sentence for a few seconds, then he lowered his head and began to write. She writes quickly. No aurora was written, no snowfield was written. It didn't mention those stranded in the polar regions. She wrote that one finally understands. Kindness is not bearing the cost for everyone, and clarity is not coldness. Everyone can make a wish, but wishes cannot replace a route, a timeline, responsibilities, and a return ticket. As she wrote the final paragraph, she heard the wind rustling the leaves outside the window, a rustling sound, like the wind that finally stops over a distant snowfield. The exam end bell rang, and Sun Yan put down her pen. She did not submit her exam paper early. The sun was even harsher than it had been that morning. As I walked out of the exam hall, Mother stood outside the school gate, holding a bottle of water with the label peeled off. Seeing Sun Yan come out, she immediately walked up to greet her. How's it going? Sun Yan took the water and gave a faint smile. It's okay. My father stood nearby, phone in hand. With a slight frown, Sun Yan looked over. Father hesitated for a moment, but still said, your homeroom teacher contacted me. Sun Yan's hand, holding the water bottle, paused for a moment. What did you say? They asked if our company can arrange a polar charter flight. Mother's face instantly darkened. How do they still have the nerve? Father didn't respond to that. Simply looking at Sun Yan, I've already refused. Sun Yan looked up. Father said, I'm telling you, polar charter flights require compliance applications. The company doesn't take on last-minute high-risk return trips. More importantly, my daughter is taking her college entrance exam today. I won't let her get dragged back into this just because someone else messed up their itinerary. Sun Yan's eyes suddenly welled up. Dad, her father patted her on the shoulder. Good luck with your math exam this afternoon. She nodded vigorously. Okay. That afternoon, the math exam was harder than Sun Yan had expected. She was stuck on the last big question for 10 minutes. If it were a past life, she would definitely have panicked. Her mind at that moment was filled with the airport announcements at the polar region, the sound of classmates crying, Luchen's urging, and her father's weary voice. This time, she simply paused to take a small sip of water, then read the question again, break down the conditions slowly, writing little by little until the end. The bell rang just as she put down her pen. Stepping out of the exam hall, the sunset glow spread across the teaching building's outer wall. After getting her phone back, Sun Yan saw a flood of messages. The topic Polar Wish Class Collective Stranded has gone viral on the trending list. In the video, Lin Ji was sitting on the airport floor, crying. Luchan shouted at the staff, we have to take the college entrance exam, holding up their admission tickets. The students repeatedly asked if there was any way to get back. The fastest, the comments section exploded, going to the Arctic 7 days before the college entrance exam. Who came up with that? Their wish landed them on the airport floor. This isn't romance, it's playing blind box with your life. Heard a classmate canceled their ticket and didn't go. That's real clarity. I want to know who organized this. Don't blame the travel agency for everything. How did you manage your own time? Sun Yan just glanced at it and left. She didn't want to find joy. In their embarrassment, she simply felt that the heavy burden she had carried in her past life had finally been lifted. The next day, before the English exam, the homeroom teacher found Sun Yan outside the test center. He didn't sleep a wink all night. His eyes were bloodshot. Sun Yan stopped in his tracks. The homeroom teacher opened his mouth as if to say a lot. In conclusion, I will only say this. Good luck with your exam. Sun Yan nodded. Teacher, have they come back? The homeroom teacher's face was ashen. Not yet. Sun Yan didn't ask again. The homeroom teacher looked at her, lowering his voice slightly. Yesterday, Luchan and the others called me, saying your family could help. I shouldn't have called your dad. Sun Yan was somewhat surprised. The homeroom teacher gave a wry smile. I was completely panicked, but then I thought, you had warned them, and they just didn't listen. Going that far right before the college entrance exam, they shouldn't have shifted the risk onto you in the first place. Sun Yan was silent for a few seconds. Teacher, I don't have the ability to save them. The homeroom teacher looked at her. Sun Yan said, I'm just an examinee. The homeroom teacher's eyes reddened slightly. Yes, he repeated himself. You're also an examinee. Sun Yan walked into the examination hall on the day the college entrance exam ended. The first group of stranded students from the polar town finally returned home. By the time they landed, the Chinese, math, and English exams were already over. Some provinces have additional subjects in the later stages, but their region does not. In other words, they missed the entire college entrance exam. The airport exit was packed with parents. No flowers, no applause, only sobs, quarrels, accusations, and faces pale from exhaustion. As soon as Lin Shi came out, her mother grabbed her by the shoulders. Why do you insist on going? Lin Shi opened her mouth, but not a single word came out. Luchan stood behind, with stubble clearly visible on his face. He spotted the reporter's cameras and instinctively shielded Lin Shi, but the next second, a classmate's parent rushed over. So, you're the ones who organized this. My child said it was you who kept urging everyone to go. The college entrance exam. What are you making wishes about it for? Lin Shi was surrounded in the middle of the crowd, her face as pale as snow. She suddenly remembered the words Sun Yan had said in the classroom before they set off. Go by yourselves. Have fun on your own, and come back on your own. At that time, she found Sun Yan cold and distant. Only now do I understand that it was never a curse, that is the boundary. Luchan tried to call Sun Yan. Just block them. He switched to his classmate's phone to make the call. Sun Yan answered the call. The moment the call connected, Luchan found himself at a loss for words. After a long pause, he finally spoke, his voice hoarse. Sun Yan, we didn't make it. On Sun Yan's end, there was only silence. It's like flipping through a book. Luchan was stunned by that. You knew this was going to happen all along, didn't you? I warned you. Then why didn't you stop us? Sun Yan was silent for 2 seconds, then asked, Luchan, are you 3 years old? Complete silence on the other end of the line. All 47 of you have parents, a homeroom teacher, a travel agency, your own ID cards, and passports. When Lin Shi shares a group by link, you know how to click sign up. When you mock me, you know how to type. When it's time to leave, you know how to take photos. Why is it that when it's time to face the consequences, you need me to hold you back? Luchan's breath trembled. Sun Yan, you weren't like this before. I saved you before. Her voice is very soft. So what happened? Luchan was speechless. Sun Yan didn't wait for his answer. Luchan, don't call me anymore from now on. Sun Yan, and also, she paused. Keep Lin Shi safe. The call ended. Luchan stood at the airport exit, clutching the expired admission ticket in his hand. He had been crumpling and smoothing that piece of paper in the polar region for 3 days, and all its corners were crumpled. He suddenly recalled what he had said to Sun Yan in the classroom before the college entrance exam. You don't have to do this. Now I understand. It wasn't Sun Yan who was unnecessary. It's them. Blame quickly began to be assigned. The travel agency was investigated. The tour guide in charge was held accountable. The school was ordered to make rectifications for failing to fully assess the risks of the group trip before the college entrance exam. Lin Shi's family initially tried to shift the blame. Her mother posted a long message in the parents group, saying that Sun Yan was fully aware of the risks of the polar route but failed to warn the whole class in time, nor did she offer any help within her ability afterward. Within 10 minutes of that message being sent, Sun Yan posted the screenshots, recordings, and refund records all At once, the first one is a screenshot of her chat record before departure, warning about the risks of the return trip. The second one was Lin Ji's reply to her, Sunyan, don't be a buzzkill. The third one is a transcript of the audio recording where the boy in the back row said in the classroom, if something goes wrong, you don't need to worry about it. The fourth one is her own successful ticket refund record. The fifth one was a private message Luchan sent to her, don't be a killjoy, Lin Ji. Just wanted to lighten the mood for the whole class. The last one is the fine print in what the travel agency calls a return guarantee letter. Our agency will only assist with ticket changes for delays caused by polar weather, air traffic control, communication anomalies, or force majeure, and shall not be liable for any losses related to exams, academic admissions, interviews, or other special events. Sunyan only matched one sentence, I did not organize, participate in, or promise any rescue. Nor am I obligated to bear the consequences of anyone else's choices. The parents' group chat was silent for a full half hour. Half an hour later, Lin Ji's mother retracted that long message, but screenshots had already spread throughout the parent group chat. This time, no one was there to cry for Lin Ji. The first to speak up was not Sunyan's parents. She's the mother of the girl who was crying at the polar airport while calling home. She warned you, but you didn't listen. Immediately after, another parent also posted, stop going after Sunyan. I'm furious that my child missed the college entrance exam too, but it's not her fault. Lin Ji's mother never spoke again. After that day, Sunyan's phone finally fell silent. When the results came out, Sunyan did very well on the exam, not the top in the city, but steady enough. She already had a direct admission qualification. The college entrance exam results were just for her own peace of mind. Mother prepared a feast. Father opened a bottle of red wine, which was a rare treat. Sunyan had only taken a few sips of juice when the phone rang. It was the homeroom teacher. Sunyan, congratulations. Thank you, teacher. The homeroom teacher paused for a few seconds on the other end. Lin Ji and the others applied for a makeup exam, but it's tough right now. This isn't covered under the general deferment policy. At least, there's no clear verdict yet. Sunyan gripped her phone. Standing on the balcony, the evening breeze swept in, carrying the heat of summer. There's someone setting off fireworks downstairs. A small cluster of golden sparks burst in the night sky, quickly fading away. She said. The homeroom teacher sighed. The parents are making a huge scene right now, demanding accountability from the travel agency, the school, and the organizers. Teacher, it has nothing to do with me anymore. The homeroom teacher paused for a moment. Yeah, it's none of your business now. After the call ended, Sunyan stood on the balcony for a long time. There are no auroras in the city's night sky, just ordinary lights, ordinary buildings, ordinary wind, but she felt just fine. The aurora is stunning, but she no longer wanted to stand in the middle of the frozen wasteland for someone else's wishes. A few days later, Lin Ji came to see Sunyan once. She stood at the entrance of the residential complex, looking noticeably thinner. Her once meticulously styled hair was now carelessly tied up, eyes red and swollen, with the crumpled admission ticket still clutched in her hand. Sunyan paused mid-step when he saw her while going downstairs to pick up a package. Lin Ji also saw her. The two stood a few meters apart, locking eyes for a long time, and finally, Lin Ji spoke first. Sunyan, are you satisfied now? Sunyan looked at her and suddenly felt exhausted. In her last life, Lin Ji was the same. She shifts all the consequences onto others' shoulders. I didn't do well on the exam because Sunyan's chartered flight was too exhausting. Missing the college entrance exam was because Sunyan refused to save the situation. She is always the one who gets hurt. Never ask yourself what you did in the first place. I'm not satisfied, Sunyan said. Lin Ji's tears suddenly fell. Then why won't you help us? You clearly could. I can't. Your dad can. Sunyan looked at her. Lin Ji, you still think my dad's connections, my family's money, and my energy should all be there to cover for your choices. Lin Ji's face went pale. Sunyan continued. Did you ask me when you were organizing the itinerary, when you mocked me for canceling the ticket? Did it ever occur to you that what I warned you about was the risk? When you made a wish under the northern lights, did you ever think about the return flight? Now you're holding the exam admission ticket and asking me why I didn't save you. Then let me ask you. Sunyan's voice was soft, yet every word landed with unmistakable clarity. Why do you want to go? Lin Ji opened her mouth as if to speak. I can't answer that. Because of romance, because of the laid-back vibe, because you want to be the center of the class, because she enjoys everyone flocking around her, saying, Lin Ji, you're so brave. Lin Ji, you really know how to live. Lin Ji, unlike Sunyan, you're not boring. None of these reasons can stand up to the consequences of missing the college entrance exam. Lin Ji clutched her admission ticket, her knuckles turning white. I just want to do well on my exam. Then you should be sitting in the classroom reviewing. Sunyan picked up the package and turned to leave, Linji suddenly called out, "Sunyen, if it were the old you, you would have saved me." Sunyen stopped in his tracks. The setting sun filtered through the gaps between the residential buildings, slicing the ground into patches of gold. She did not look back. Yes, so the old Sunyen is already dead. Linji stood frozen in place. Sunyen walked into the stairwell. The sobbing behind her grew fainter and fainter. Later, the matter of the Polar Wish Group caused quite a stir for a long time. Travel agency investigated. The tour guide in charge has been held accountable. School rectification. Both Linji and Luchin repeated a year of school. The class group chat was disbanded. Many people never contacted Sunyen again. On the day the admission letter arrived, the courier called to ask Sunyen to come downstairs and sign for it. The red envelope felt crisp and firm in hand, its edges stiff, catching the sunlight with a subtle gleam. That same afternoon, Sunyen saw Lu Chin at the entrance of the residential community. He stood by the bus stop, carrying a gray backpack from the cram school, with his hair cut very short and looking noticeably thinner. Linji did not stand by his side. They stood half a platform apart, like two strangers who had just met. Lu Chin's Adam's apple bobbed as he caught sight of the acceptance letter in Sunyen's hand. This time, he didn't call out to her. The bus pulled into the stop, stirring up a wave of hot air. Sunyen, holding the admission letter, walked over from the sidewalk on the other side. Didn't stop, no turning back. On registration day, the campus was vast, and the plane trees stood tall. Her mother made the bed for her, while her father carried the suitcase, sweating profusely from the heat, yet still beaming with joy. Her roommate asked her, "Do you have any particularly unforgettable memories from high school?" Sunyen thought for a moment. She recalled the aurora, the snowfields, the darkened flight screens at the airport, and the camphor trees outside the window on the day of the college entrance exam. Finally, she said, "Yes, what?" Sunyen placed a book on the table. "I've learned my lesson. Don't make wishes to the universe on behalf of others." My roommate didn't get it and laughed, saying she talks like she's writing an essay. Sunyen laughed too. The sun is shining brightly outside the window. No wind or snow, no countdown. No one cried out to her for help. She finally stepped into the life that was truly her own, and in the far, far north, the aurora shines every year, still beautiful, still magnificent, still like a dream the universe has lowered upon the world. But Sunyen already knew, dreams are free to dream and wishes are free to make, but you have to buy your own return ticket, and you have to take the college entrance exam on your own. Story 2. My boyfriend comes from an ultra-wealthy family. He constantly takes me to upscale restaurants, gets me designer brands I've never even heard of, and jets me around the world. My roommate thinks money is vulgar and keeps telling me to break up with him. Rich guys just play around. Why would they ever seriously date someone like you? Have some self-respect and don't be such a lovesick fool. Yet she ended up dating a businessman twice her age, claiming it's true love, but she locked me out of the dorm, and I ended up getting murdered by the tycoon's wife. When I opened my eyes again, I'd gone back to my freshman orientation day. My roommate was holding forth about her dating philosophy. Honestly, choosing a boyfriend should be about chemistry. Judging by material conditions is just tacky. I opened my eyes to find myself lying on the dormitory single bed. Sarah's familiar shrill voice pierced through. So many girls these days are just materialistic. They'll end up getting played and losing everything. I peeked out and saw my other two roommates were there too. I pinched my arm hard. Damn, that hurt. So it's true. I've really been reborn. Elena, was that your boyfriend who just dropped you off? Sarah asked with calculating eyes. Just like in my past life, she'd always fish for information like this before spreading rumors. I nodded. Yeah, he's my boyfriend. We're still young. Should date peers for innocent campus romance. She subtly hinted I was seeing an older guy. You're right, he's actually in college too. I replied with a faint smile. My bunkmate Hannah's eyes widened. Wow, driving a Bentley at his age. Must be from a wealthy family. Sarah pouted. What's so great about him? He just showed up and left without even helping you clean. Probably just came to check out the new freshman girls. When I stayed silent, she pressed on. Rich boys like him always have terrible tempers, but he bosses you around all the time. Nathan's been studying business in Hong Kong and should have returned ages ago. He only stayed those extra days to see me off for the new semester. The admiration in Hannah's eyes turned to pity, and even Clara, who rarely spoke, glanced up at me, arranging my daily items absent-mindedly. I said casually, not really, he's more easygoing than I am. Watching me pull out various luxury skincare products and designer bags one after another, Sarah froze momentarily before saying, don't be shy, we all get it. I looked up at her and asked, then don't you know male visitors aren't allowed in girls' dorms? Without another word to her, I headed downstairs to call Nathan. I miss him in my past life. Sarah kept insisting Nathan was just playing with me, that he definitely had other women in Hong Kong. She even showed me photos of him drinking with other girls, feeding my insecurities until I believed he'd cheated. After breaking up with him online, I blocked him everywhere. Then I cried nonstop for 3 days straight in my dorm. The fact that he didn't reach out at all these days just confirmed he never cared. Only later did I find out he'd flown back overnight and waited outside my building till morning. Sarah told him I'd gone home. but when he came to my place my parents kicked him out. Later, Sarah informed her parents about his repeated infidelities. When he returned to campus, Sarah claimed I'd already moved on, saying the reason I wouldn't let him enter school grounds was because I had another boyfriend there. Played him the edited recording. Heartbroken, Nathan left for abroad and never returned. Now I've figured it out. The call connected within seconds. Nathan, are you there? My voice trembled with tears. The usually laid-back Nathan suddenly turned serious. What's wrong, baby? Did someone hurt you? Just wait till I get back. No, I just missed you. My words left Nathan speechless for a long moment. I'm not good at expressing emotions. In over 2 months of dating, I've never said sweet nothings. I always call people by their full names. Nathan's the opposite though. Always clingy and affectionate. I'll come see you this weekend. No, tomorrow, Nathan exclaimed excitedly. No, you focus on your studies. Come back after you've earned your credits. I sighed helplessly. It took forever to convince him, and we kept chatting endlessly before finally hanging up. Just as I returned to the dorm, Sarah stood arms crossed by the doorway. Elena, aren't you embarrassed? I was completely baffled, adjusting her sleeves. She said, I heard everything. How pathetic you sounded on that call. Please, don't do this. Begging like some desperate fool. This is a new era now. We women should stand on our own feet. Be independent. With a scornful glance at me, she pulled Hannah aside and warned, don't you dare end up like her. Hannah nodded knowingly, her face mirroring the same contempt. The two of them went out to eat while chatting. Does being in a relationship mean losing independence? Hilarious. I casually grabbed my phone to order takeout. Then the phone rang. It was White Swan Restaurant calling to say my delivery had arrived downstairs. Asking if they could bring it up now must have been Nathan. I'd casually complimented this place before. He had to top up $3 million to become a VIP member just to get food delivery privileges too. After agreeing, four waitresses brought over multiple food containers until my table was nearly overflowing. Clara, let's eat together. There's way too much food. I noticed her eating plain steamed buns with pickles, remembering her parents didn't provide living expenses and she hadn't found part-time work yet since semester started. And no thanks, I'm full, she murmured in refusal. I immediately stood up and pulled her over to sit down. Do this as a favor for me. It'd be such a waste not to finish. Clara was kind-hearted and principled. Though raised in a family that favored sons over daughters, against all odds in that environment, she managed to get into college. Tragically, her father later forced her to drop out and marry after accepting a 180,000 yuan bride price from a villager. She resisted at first, until Sarah convinced her, marriages should be between equals. Face it, you're just a village girl with a burdensome younger brother. Stick to marrying rural folks. No city dweller would ever want you. Clara disappeared the next day after hearing that. Rumor has it she went back home to get married. Seeing how anxious I looked, Clara took the chopsticks I handed her, carefully picking up a slice of beef. Her eyes sparkled. This is amazing. How could anyone leave such delicious food unfinished? I smiled and encouraged her to eat more. Something smells incredible. Hannah and the others returned, saying, this place is ridiculously expensive. I went there once with my family. Even the simplest dish costs over 1,000. Hannah eyed the packaging. What's so great about it? Begging for scraps isn't my style. Sarah swallowed hard. Forcing composure, I rolled my eyes. Right, you're the epitome of dignity. Struck speechless by my remark, she shot Clara, who was helping me pack leftovers, a sneer. Didn't peg you as the type to brown-nose the rich. Playing maid like this? Clara lowered her eyes without saying a word. I stepped protectively in front of her. Our friendship's none of your damn business. I could feel Clara stealing glances at me, her eyes shining. The following 2 weeks were spent mostly in military training, so we barely stayed in the dorm, but my classmates kept giving me these weird looks, some full of disdain, others almost pitying. That day, I came back to the dorm early because of low blood sugar. Seeing nobody was around, I put the call on speakerphone eating. While talking on the phone, my poor baby, your face got so tanned. Why aren't you using the spa card I gave you? I miss you so much. I think about you during meals, in class, even when playing basketball. When will you finally let me see you? Please, I'm begging you. I half-heartedly responded to Nathan. Ever since I started showing him affection these days, he's become increasingly clingy. Who said Elena was desperate? I looked up to see Sarah standing at the dorm entrance with several girls. I knew that couldn't be true. Elena's gorgeous with such a sweet personality. If she were my girlfriend, I'd spoil her rotten. The girl from the next dorm glanced at Sarah while speaking. Sarah and Hannah lowered their heads guiltily. She quickly regained her composure. So what? Rich men are all two-faced. Who knows what her boyfriend even looks like? Probably some loser. The only reason he treats her so well is because he's ugly himself. I couldn't care less about Sarah's gossip. She'll expose herself eventually. After military training, I was swamped with classes and competitions every day, barely having time to pay attention to her, yet Nathan kept sending gifts and takeout nonstop, and I'd constantly hear her snide remarks. Eventually I just ignored her, and that finally shut her up, until one day she suddenly announced she was dating someone and wanted to treat us to dinner. I wasn't planning to go, but Clara seemed reluctant to ask me to accompany her. Surprisingly, it was the same White Swan restaurant. After we sat down, I realized she'd also invited some other classmates we got along with. Let me introduce my boyfriend Miles, the youngest heir of Jiang Group, Sarah said confidently, linking arms with him. Miles graciously told everyone to order freely, smiling with perfect courtesy. Only I know he's actually a budget version of a young master, paying to take turns posing at upscale venues for staged photos. Then he crafts this wealthy heir persona online to attract followers. Sarah, your boyfriend is so handsome, he looks like an influencer. Emma from the next dorm gushed enthusiastically. Our Miles does have some followers. I'm shallow like that, just here for the looks. Money doesn't really matter. 3. At least don't date a chubby guy. I wouldn't even want to kiss that. She laughed while looking at me. Elena, I saw your phone wallpaper. That's your boyfriend, right? Someone should really tell him to hit the gym. New money doesn't have to mean new pounds. Sarah actually snapped a photo of my wallpaper and started passing it around. The wallpaper is indeed Nathan. It's his high school photo. The weight gain was a side effect of medication for his illness. I had to beg forever just to get that photo. A bit chubby maybe, but totally adorable without being cringy. I frowned. Sarah, is it really polite to judge people's appearance like that? Plus, sneaking photos of my phone violates privacy rights. Seeing my stern expression, the snickering crowd immediately fell silent. Peacemaker Hannah stepped in to mediate, and Sarah reluctantly deleted the photos to end the conflict. Trying to save face, Sarah deliberately ordered several expensive dishes. She ruined my appetite. I just took a few bites before leaving, which meant I missed the real drama that unfolded later. It's not like I won't pay you back. What's the big deal? I was watching a movie in the dorm when I heard Sarah cursing loudly. Whoever heard of borrowing money to treat someone to dinner? TCH, how embarrassing is that? This came from Hannah, who usually got along well with her. The two of them started arguing right there in the dorm, so I quickly grabbed Clara by the door and made our exit, found a coffee shop to sit down in. Finally some peace and quiet. What's going on? I slid a latte across to Clara. Sarah's boyfriend got a call midway through, said it was something urgent, and just left. Guess he forgot to pay. Sarah ended up covering the bill. She was short on cash, so I lent her my entire 2-week allowance, Clara said, nervously twisting the hem of her shirt. I frowned. You gave her everything. What are you going to live on? Seeing her speechless, I sighed. Clara, you need to learn to say no. Help others within your means. Don't sacrifice yourself for them. Then I lent her some living expenses and hooked her up with a tutoring gig. Seeing her hesitation, I said earnestly, have courage. You're great at math and so meticulous. The parents will be pleased. We studied all afternoon and didn't return to the dorm until evening. Those two actually made up again. Not only did Sarah repay the money, but she also gave Hannah a gift. Clara, I've transferred your $500, Sarah said smugly. Over the next month, she and Miles went on frequent dates, always returning with designer gifts while splurging on luxury items for herself. They became the campus's golden couple. Everyone knew she'd landed a handsome, wealthy boyfriend. Relationships should be equal. I'd never take everything from my boyfriend when I can afford my own. Unlike some people who constantly accept gifts, guess they're compensating for emotional damages. Sarah always enjoys taking subtle digs at me. In my past life, that would have eaten me alive, but now, I'm absolutely worthy. Thank you very much. Then I hope you have better taste in boyfriends than I do. I reminded her kindly. She accused me of being jealous that her boyfriend's handsome. Is that her? Yeah. The fair-skinned pretty one. Never expected she'd end up with someone like that. What can you do? The guy's loaded. A gold digger and a rich creep, match made in heaven. Lately, I've been overhearing these whispers on my way to class, no doubt about it. Sarah must have restored those photos again and spread them everywhere. Clara almost jumped to my defense, but I stopped her. It's fine. I don't care. None of it's true anyway. Experience teaches what theory never can. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Sarah was sobbing when I got back to the dorm. A quick phone search confirmed Miles' identity had been exposed as fake by the real Jiang Group, for their official account posted it with a cease and desist letter attached. Miles' Pinduoduo Prince scam got exposed too. Now he's deleted his account and fled. Hannah comforted her. At least there's no real loss. Breaking up was for the best. Upon hearing this, Sarah suddenly flew into a rage. What would you know? I'm ruined. She immediately started gathering her designer belongings and rushed out in a huff. Hannah got mad too, storming next door to vent to Emma. Soon after, Sarah returned with several handbags and began slashing them with scissors out of nowhere. She confronted me. You knew about this, didn't you, Elena? You were enjoying my humiliation. I actually laughed. What humiliation are you talking about? You knew damn well these gifts from Miles were fake. Sarah pointed at me viciously. And you said nothing. I shrugged. What am I? Some kind of stalker, like I spend my days watching your every move. She fell silent. After all, this was the same person who'd even peek at my homework progress, since Hannah couldn't keep a secret either. News of Sarah being tricked spread like wildfire across campus. All that former envy turned into schadenfreude. They all remembered how Sarah had been flaunting her achievements while putting them down lately. Sarah didn't return to school for days, and when she finally did, she was covered in bruises, like someone had beaten her up, sobbing uncontrollably. She grabbed my arm. Elena, I'm sorry I never dared to say your boyfriend was ugly before. Please, could you lend me some money? I'm begging you. Seeing her desperate pleading reminded me of my past life. Back then, she cried just as pitifully, pounding on our dorm room door begging me to let her in. The moment she opened the door, her expression changed and she shoved me out. She screamed at the woman chasing her. She's Sarah. Go after her, not me, no matter how desperately I begged her to open the door. She kept it locked. That deranged woman stabbed me over a dozen times in cold blood, bleeding out, dying cold and lifeless right before graduation. At this thought, I pushed her away coldly. What do you need the money for? I borrowed $400K, and now they're demanding $500K back. They'll kill me if I don't pay up soon. Sarah sobbed. Turns out she'd been financing her luxury purchases with online loans, even showering Miles with expensive gifts to maintain her rich girl facade. Turns out all those designer bags and jewelry Miles gave her were knockoffs. Now he's vanished with the real valuables. I said calmly, you took out loan shark debts. I can't help you with this. Go talk to your parents or teachers. Your boyfriend's loaded. Please lend me the money. I swear I'll pay you back. My parents can't find out. She pleaded desperately, gripping my arm painfully tight like I was her last hope. Didn't you say we shouldn't ask boyfriends for money? That's his cash, not mine. I took out my phone and alerted our dorm advisor. The counselor arrived promptly and, after understanding the situation, immediately notified her parents without hesitation. Elena, you did the right thing. Never try to handle such matters alone. You're still students after all, the counselor said reassuringly, patting my shoulder with approval. Ignoring Sarah's dagger-like glare, I smiled and saw them both out. In the end, Sarah's parents repaid the money to settle the matter. Her family was comfortably middle class. They could scrape together 500,000 yuan, but it'd wipe out most of their savings. Sarah's parents slashed her allowance straight in half. After the cut, she'd rant about her parents nonstop in the dorm, spewing every vile insult imaginable. If you can't afford kids, don't have them. Nobody in the dorm wanted anything to do with her anymore, except Clara, who seemed to hesitate speaking her mind. She murmured softly, I think your parents are already very generous. I'm even paying my tuition with student loans. Sarah looked her up and down dismissively. Country bumpkin like you with thick skin. How could you possibly compare? 2,000 a month wouldn't even cover my dining expenses. Clara gathered her courage after a moment's thought and met her gaze. At least I'm self-sufficient. Unlike you. Sarah was stunned that even Clara dared to talk back to her, leaving her momentarily speechless. I've been swamped with coursework and preparing to host the welcome party. Barely had time to go online. Clara showed me an anonymous post online that read, so this is the boyfriend your goddess Elena picked. It was a photo of Nathan and me, with his image photoshopped to look dark and hideous. The comments under that post are downright disgusting, with OP constantly stirring up drama. They even pretended to be an insider, accusing me of sucking up to superiors while bullying roommates and being a snitch. This post has gone viral across multiple universities. No wonder Sarah's been glued to her phone lately with that smug grin. I'll deal with this after the welcome party. You never thought someone would pick a fight even at the party right after the performance. I was about to give the closing remarks. Some guy shouted through a megaphone, Elena, did you reject me because I'm not as rich as your ugly fat black boyfriend? How about I give you $2,000 to spend the night with me? Haha. Sarah was sitting next to him, eagerly filming everything with her phone. I recognized him as the senior who'd confessed to me in the library before. Back then, he'd confidently held out a wilted rose and asked, what do you think of me? What could I say? I didn't even know him at the time. I politely turned him down by saying I had a boyfriend. Can't believe he's still haunting me like a ghost. People in the audience were whispering, so that's the gold digger. No wonder she's pretty. What's the senior implying? Did Elena ever lead him on? She actually turned down that tall, lanky guy for some Chubby dude, money really does talk. How did someone like this become host? They're ruining the school's reputation. Several people were already shouting for me to get off stage. Even the school administrators looked displeased. Tonight's gala had important alumni and board members attending alongside students. The dean stood up. Young man, don't disrupt the event. Step down immediately. Frankly, rejection suits someone like you. A crisp male voice cut through the air, silencing the room. The words came from a young man seated at the central trustee's position. His sharp features were accentuated by a pronounced jawline, pressed lips tinged pink betraying his simmering anger. Mind your damn business, the man snapped with venomous intensity. Is my girlfriend's business trivial? My nose stung when I recognized Nathan, though I hadn't meant to cry, just like how kids don't cry when they fall alone, but burst into tears when adults notice, because I knew someone was coming to protect me. Nathan walked on stage holding an elaborate custom bouquet while speaking. He gently wiped away my tears. Don't cry. I'll teach him a lesson. I took the flowers, overwhelmed with hurt feelings. When trouble broke out, the dean's first instinct was to drag me away instead of that guy, and Nathan grabbed my mic. I'm the so-called fat and ugly boyfriend you were talking about. Guys like you who spread rumors and belittle women after being rejected don't deserve a girlfriend. You'd be the last man on earth any woman would choose. She chose me because I'm not just exceptional, I respect her. We genuinely like each other. The reason she didn't pick you, you're downright creepy and disgusting. The boy's face turned beet red from the scolding, completely speechless. Nathan's still got that sharp 10 of his, and I'm here for it, and that biased dean, instead of dragging the rumor-mongering instigator away, he makes the victim back down. What kind of educator is that, Nathan? Seemed to read my mind, leaving no stone unturned. The dean snatched the megaphone from the boy, fuming. Where did this brat come from? Security, get him off the stage now. Nathan let out a cold laugh. 6. I anxiously grabbed Nathan's hand. Don't be afraid, he whispered reassuringly, his voice sounding completely different. This is outrageous. Director David, do you even know who he is? The vice principal hurried over to stop the dean. I don't care who he is. How dare some brat lecture me? What a disgraceful upbringing. Director David's face turned ashen. His authority being challenged infuriated him. The vice principal's voice turned icy. Watch your tongue. That's Mr. Richard's son you're insulting. You wouldn't dare question the Richard's upbringing, Mr. Richard. Director David's hatred instantly turned to terror. Chairman Richard graduated from this university and is now its most influential alumnus and largest donor. The very auditorium they're sitting in was donated by Mr. Richard. The students near Dean David overheard and started whispering among themselves. Turns out he's the sole heir to the Richard Group, an ultra-rich second-generation tycoon, with looks like that and treating his girlfriend so well. Only an idiot wouldn't choose him. Now that's what I call old money elegance, not like that discount prince from Pinduoduo. I only knew Nathan came from a strict family that valued education, but I never realized his father was actually a board member. Why do you think he's sitting next to the principal? His dad sent him as proxy. Dean David glanced at the principal, whose face had turned thunderous. Security, escort that troublemaker out. Spreading rumors about female classmates calls for severe disciplinary action. Director David sure changed his tune quickly. As the guy was being dragged away, Sarah hid her phone in fear, her face turning pale. Seeing the situation was mostly resolved, I signaled Nathan to step aside first so I could wrap up the closing ceremony. I've always believed in finishing what you start. As I stepped off the stage after delivering the closing remarks, I saw Nathan gazing at me with sparkling eyes, extending his hand toward me. It felt like welcoming royalty. I took his hand and immediately pulled him into an embrace. Thank you for always having my back, and for this second chance the universe has given me. 2 girls behind us whispered. They're such a perfect match. That freshman's boyfriend is not only gorgeous but also respects women. That comeback was epic. Finally someone put that creep in his place. Rumor has it he hits on every pretty girl he sees. Nathan overheard too, looking smug as a cat waiting for praise. We went to the hotel he was temporarily staying at near campus. You came back without telling me. Nathan's smile faded gradually at my question. His gaze darkened, radiating such danger that I instinctively stepped backward, the sofa pressed against my legs, nowhere left to retreat. MMPH, Nathan pinned my wrist and crushed his lips against mine. The kiss laced with simmering frustration. After the kiss, I went limp with exhaustion, collapsing into his arms. What's wrong? My voice came out breathy and slurred from oxygen deprivation, sounding almost like a whimper. Nathan's sculpted nose brushed lightly against the tip of mine. You've been treated this badly, and didn't even tell your own boyfriend. Don't you trust me? Nathan lowered his eyes. I blinked. You saw the post. I was planning to see a lawyer after the party. Nathan seemed even Angrier, tilting my chin up to meet his gaze. Did it ever occur to you to come to me? I gave a guilty chuckle. Growing up fending for myself made me too independent. Asking for help never came naturally. Seeing me silent with darting eyes, Nathan heaved a defeated sigh. Just remember to come to me next time, he muttered. I nodded vigorously. The morning after returning to campus, I got a call from my academic advisor, Elena. Could you swing by the office? The advisor asked. Cautiously, when I got to the office, I saw Principal David and Sarah were already there, along with that lunatic guy. Principal David grinned until his face wrinkled. Miss Elena, we've investigated the matter. It was Sarah who spread malicious rumors about classmates online. Rest assured, she'll face severe disciplinary action. 7. And this Tyler, an accomplice to wrongdoing. Hurry up and apologize to Elena. He fawned over me. So, young Master Nathan, are you satisfied with this outcome? I couldn't stand that two-faced Director David, so I kept my mouth shut. With puffy red eyes, Sarah pleaded, Elena, I've taken down the post. Please forgive me. I let it slide this time but warned, if this happens again, I won't hesitate to call the police. The guy kept his head down without saying a word until I walked out the door. Fuck you, you pretentious slut. Who do you think you are? We all know you're sleeping around. He suddenly lashed out at me and tried to hit me. And you, Sarah? You're the one who told me to pick a fight. Now you're quick to kneel. Smack. Seeing me dodge, he ended up slapping Sarah across the face. Director David and the counselor rushed to restrain him while I immediately called the police. Not only did he assault classmates, but I've also heard he frequently harasses female students. Please investigate this thoroughly. Soon after, police discovered his phone contained numerous voyeuristic videos and purchase records for spy cameras. They took him straight to the police station. After that day, Sarah became much quieter in the dorm, and I certainly didn't mind the peace. Director David was investigated for taking bribes and extorting students, resulting in his suspension pending disciplinary review. After that, I followed my study routine diligently while taking on occasional internships. From then on, Nathan started returning every week or two, eventually buying an apartment near campus. He put the property under my name, saying that roommate of yours seems shady. It's safer for you to live off campus. I don't want to go back and see her either. The only time I occasionally return to the dorm is for evening classes. Claire has become much more confident and outgoing lately. She often asks me to work out with her, and sometimes brings up Sarah. Said she often comes back to the dorm super late at night, waking Hannah up, and then they'd start arguing, remembering what she did in her past life. I warned Clara to be careful. My dad wants me to go back home for an arranged marriage, but I refused. I blocked them all, and my counselor said he'd handle the talks. Clara said, brushing her freshly cut short hair, I'm thinking of changing my name. How about Luna? She excitedly told me about her new choice. How wonderful. She's got a whole new future ahead now. I followed her back to the dorm to collect the rest of my things. The moment we stepped inside, Sarah beamed excitedly. Elena, don't think you're the only one who can land a wealthy boyfriend. Check this out. She flaunted an array of dazzling jewelry. Looks like she's back with that businessman 20 years her senior. I kept packing my things without paying attention. Keith's a few years older, but older men know how to treat you right. Chemistry matters more in relationships. Handsome guys are always players. He's picking me up soon. Said he'd take me to Europe. Never been. Have you? Always buried in the library, pretending to study for who knows who. Sarah was back to her old ways right after finals. Nathan wouldn't stop pestering me about touring Europe. Now I'm swamped. Wish I could stretch every hour into two. Grabbing my bag, I headed out the door. Congratulations then. Just don't do anything shady, or karma's gonna bite you. She trailed behind me, momentarily guilty before snapping back. Elena, are you cursing me? You can't wake someone who's pretending to sleep. The moment I stepped out of school, I saw Sarah sprinting toward and hugging a balding middle-aged man. The man stared straight at me. Sarah, is this your classmate? Feeling his disgusting gaze scanning me up and down, I frowned in disgust. Sarah clung to his arm. Yeah, my roommate. Pretty face won't get her far. Still needs a boyfriend. At those words, Keith's eyes turned contemptuous for reasons unknown. He winked at me before helping Sarah into the car, fighting back nausea. I just brought the stuff back to my apartment. Then my phone rang. Elena, this is Nathan's father. Care to join me for dinner this afternoon? Even after 3 years together, Nathan never introduced me to his family, claimed they didn't get along. What does Mr. Richard want with me? Is he gonna throw 30 million at me to leave Nathan and Nathan? We're about to hit the jackpot. Arriving at the restaurant Mr. Richard mentioned, the waiter led me to an extremely private VIP room. Richard was dressed in a well-tailored suit, bearing some resemblance to Nathan in facial features. However, unlike Nathan's free-spirited demeanor, Richard carried himself with refined elegance. He wasn't alone. Madame Margaret accompanied him, dressed in a chic white dress. I set down my bag and took a seat across from them. Good afternoon, Mr. Richard, Auntie Elena. Hello, dear. What a lovely girl you are. Nathan should have introduced us to you much sooner. 8. I had to come find you myself. hope I'm not interrupting, Mrs. Margaret smiled gently, her dimples faintly showing. After exchanging pleasantries, Aunt Margaret handed me the menu. And finally got down to business. Our Nathan is graduating this year, and we're sending him to study in the UK. With you two being oceans apart, even the strongest relationship would struggle to survive the distance. As she spoke, she pulled out a check. My heart sank. Was she hinting I should gracefully bow out of this relationship? Aunt Margaret gently squeezed my hand, her warm eyes glowing with kindness. How about studying in the UK after graduation next year? Don't worry about tuition or living expenses, I'll cover everything. Well, seeing my obvious reluctance, Mr. Richard couldn't stay seated any longer. Elena, I heard you've got stellar grades and secured direct admission to grad school at University A. That UK institution ranks higher than A and offers your major too. Wouldn't you consider it? I shook my head silently. Mrs. Margaret looked flustered. That Nathan boy insists he won't do long distance again. Flat out refuses to study in the UK. Mr. Richard sighed. Fine. Then, let him test into University A himself. I watched Mr. Richard muttering to himself before raising my voice. I never intended to pursue guaranteed admission to University A. Only when they both finally turned to look at me did I say, I've already received a full scholarship offer from Harvard, so I can't go to the UK anymore. Mr. Richard's eyes instantly lit up. You're this brilliant. Why hasn't Nathan learned more from you? I felt slightly embarrassed under their gazes. The dinner passed with Richard and his wife showering me with compliments, and they still handed me that 30 million check, calling it pocket money. Even Nathan's allowance isn't this generous. That evening, Nathan suddenly came home in a rush, anxiously checking me over from head to toe. I heard my parents talk to you today. Don't listen to a word they said. I'm never leaving you. Don't even think about ditching me. Nathan wrapped his arms around me from behind, his 6 feet 2 inches frame enveloping me completely. After struggling briefly, I gave up resisting. They want you to accompany me studying in America. Aren't you going to listen? What? After showing him my Harvard acceptance page, Nathan showered me with passionate kisses, and then he went back to studying. Sweetheart, you're so amazing. I can't let people laugh at you for dating a clueless boyfriend. After Sarah returned, she became increasingly flashy, posting their dating life all over social media. She started live streaming dating advice for girls and even gained a small following. Worried she'd drag others down again, I said, still stuck in that tiny dorm. Guess Keith isn't treating you right, can't even get you a proper place. That's when Sarah found out Nathan had gifted me the place I was living in. She went pestering Keith for an apartment that very same day, renting her a place, smooth things over, promised to buy her one after graduation. After Sarah came flaunting it in front of me, she moved out pretty quick. This happened way earlier than expected. A few months later, Hannah suddenly asked me to visit her at the hospital. What happened to her? Not sure. Rumor has it she got caught by the wife and probably got beaten up, Hannah said with schadenfreude. It was less a visit to the sickbed and more a trip to witness the spectacle. She didn't just get beaten, she's lucky to be alive. 9. The three of us from the dorm went to the hospital together. We heard shouting the moment we reached the ward. Sarah's mother was sobbing while holding her. You're barely in your 20s and already can't bear children. How will you ever marry now? Her father fumed. Marriage? Bullshit. She got beaten into miscarriage by the wife while being the other woman. I've lost all face. Now Keith refuses to take responsibility, and she squandered nearly all our family savings. We exchanged glances until her father stormed out, then finally entered. Sarah was deathly pale, with multiple bandages wrapped around her body. She glared at me with pure hatred, as if I were the culprit. Get out, all of you. Don't you dare laugh at my misery. Seeing her hysterical state, we just left the fruit basket and walked away. After all we've been through, just remember evil deeds will come back to haunt you. Ran into Keith at the hospital entrance. The creep immediately approached me with that sleazy grin. Elena, right, can't get you out of my mind, babe. How about grabbing drinks with me tonight? Pinching my nose, I said. Sarah almost got beaten to death by your wife, and you're still fooling around. Keith shrugged nonchalantly. It was just fun and games, but I should thank her. Got that crazy bitch locked up. Ha, you chase money, I chase women. Everyone gets what they want. As he spoke, he started getting handsy again. Bang. I kicked him square in the groin. Disgusting creep, ignoring his furious cursing. I went home and told Nathan about that sleazebag, seizing the chance to smooth things over. See, I came straight back to you. Nathan's angry expression softened as he stroked my hair. Ah, good girl, whispering this while planting feather-like kisses on my ear. So ticklish. CEO, all our investors have pulled out. Word is Richard declared nobody should partner with us. When did I ever offend this big shot? The deputy was on the verge of tears. Keith was running around like a headless chicken, desperately asking around. Only then did he realize the girl he'd flirted with days Ago was Mr. Richard's future daughter-in-law. Before long, Keith's company became insolvent and faced bankruptcy. Keith himself was convicted of embezzlement and selling trade secrets, landing him several years behind bars. His wife had initially been committed to a psychiatric facility, but after Keith's imprisonment, her parents took her back and arranged proper medical treatment. Sarah's miscarriage became public knowledge, leading to her dropping out of school. Rumor has it classmates frequently spotted her dating different men. Her promiscuous lifestyle eventually led to contracting a disease. Her parents sold their house to pay for her treatment and took her back to their hometown. After that, we never heard from Sarah again. After graduation, I used my scholarship savings to travel the world with Nathan. Deeply moved, he gifted me another villa he'd purchased. He's been investing for 2 years with remarkable foresight and impressive returns. I asked him, "Aren't you afraid I'm only with you for your money?" Battling splattering oil in the pan. Nathan replied, "Good thing I'm wealthy then, I'll keep making more money for you." That's right, he's already come to America as my accompanying spouse. He became my schoolmate, attending classes together every day and even cooking meals for me. 10. I wrapped my arms around his waist from behind and whispered, "This is perfect. How wonderful that you're still by my side, with our bright future ahead of us." Story 2. At first, it was just a heavy rain, and no one paid attention to it, but no one expected that the subsequent extreme cold, accompanied by blizzards and tornadoes, would quickly sweep across the entire northern hemisphere. With a low temperature of -50 degrees Celsius, there was no electricity or water, and supplies were scarce, and all of this was just the beginning. It was the end of March, and the outdoor temperature had already reached 33 degrees Celsius for Anqing, a typical northern city. This was very abnormal. However, the feeling of spring with blooming flowers was really pleasant. Among the people coming and going in short sleeves and long skirts, only the grandmother sunbathing downstairs in the office building frowned and looked worried. "Don't put away your cotton padded jacket until you've eaten the Dragon Boat Festival Zomzi. It's so hot already in March. I'm afraid something bad is going to happen." Unfortunately, no one paid attention to the grandmother's words. Tomorrow was the weekend, and my colleagues had made an appointment for a picnic. All kinds of food had already been prepared and were piled up in the pantry. I still had some work to finish. In order to be able to relax completely tomorrow, I simply stayed behind to work overtime. But when I had been busy for 2 hours and was about to make a cup of coffee, I was shocked and stunned by the scene outside the window. It was already 8 o'clock in the evening, and instead of getting dark, the sky turned a dark red. It was like old bloodstains obscured by mist, eerie and gloomy. I went back to my workstation and checked my phone, only to find that my colleagues had been chatting in the group for a long time. "The sky doesn't look normal today. Could it be that someone has killed a god or something? Have you checked the weather forecast? It's going to rain tomorrow." No way. When I checked earlier, it was still a sunny day with a temperature of 30 degrees Celsius. The wind had already picked up outside the window, and the trees were swaying violently. Wearing a short-sleeved shirt, I actually felt a bit cold. Just as I was about to check the weather forecast, a loud thunderclap cracked through the sky, and I was so scared that I almost dropped my phone. Was that thunder just now? No, it was a shell. The Japanese invaders are attacking. No, I'm going through a tribulation. Get lost. Forget about the picnic. Sigh. I stood on the 19th floor, looking at the sky in the distance as if it were being torn apart, and a sudden sense of fear welled up in my heart. Soon, after several loud thunders, it began to rain heavily. The strong wind whipped the rain and slammed it wildly against the glass. I quickly closed all the windows of the company. The rain, mixed with the smell of earth, wet my face. At this time, the real-time temperature shown on the weather forecast had already dropped to 18 degrees Celsius. I casually picked up my colleague Rose's coat and put it on, and then made a cup of hot coffee and sipped it slowly. Finally, I felt a little more at ease. At worst, I could just stay in the company tonight and wait until the rain stopped, but at that time, I didn't know that I wouldn't be able to leave the company for the next month, and many of my colleagues who had left the company after work earlier never came back too. I was awakened by the cold. When I woke up, I found myself curled up on the sofa, covered with an air conditioning blanket. I was all curled up, my hands and feet were cold, and there were goosebumps on my arms. I checked my phone. It was 4:30 in the morning, and the temperature had dropped to 12 degrees Celsius. The heavy rain still hadn't stopped. The continuous sound of the rain had been ringing for most of the night, and my hearing was almost numbed. Only the lightning that occasionally split the sky was tearing apart one dark cloud after another. I shrank alone in the company's lounge, trembling with fear. I didn't know when this heavy rain would stop. The huge company was empty and a bit eerie. I walked to the window and looked down. I found that the red warning lights were on at the nearest intersection. I could vaguely see the maintenance workers in raincoats wading through the water to clear the sewer. The water had reached up to their knees. There were few cars on the road, only gurgling rainwater, carrying broken branches and leaves. At first, I tried to call a car using a mobile app, but after waiting for nearly half an hour, no one accepted the order, so I had to give up. Indeed, the Rain was pouring down heavily and densely, and the first floor of the office building was flooded. Who would dare to drive out at this time? Fortunately, it was almost dawn, and the subway started operating at 5 o'clock in the morning. I calculated and, without even taking my bag, found a raincoat in the company's logistics department, put it on, grabbed my phone, and went outside. The icy rainwater poured down to my knees, and I was suddenly shivered by the cold. It was a 5-minute walk to the subway station, but I waded through the water and walked slowly for nearly 20 minutes. I finally reached the subway station, but was blocked by the staff. Only then did I realize that several subway lines had been suspended due to rainwater backflow. Heaven is going to kill me. I took out my phone shivering. There were dozens of unread chat messages in the company group. I scrolled up to check them. My colleagues were all discussing the sudden drop in temperature and heavy rain. On the one hand, they were sorry that the picnic had been ruined, and on the other hand, they were glad that it happened to be the weekend, so they could sleep in at home. It wasn't until someone finally asked, "I wonder if Daisy has gone home." Then there was a series of mentions. I held a few times in the Instagram group with a crying voice, "I can't leave. The subway has been suspended due to rainwater backflow. The chosen office worker has to go back to the company again." At this time, everyone was still asleep, and no one responded at all. I had to hold back my tears, roll up my trouser legs, and stagger back to the company. Fortunately, I had often stayed overnight in the company for projects recently, and I had 2 sets of change of clothes in the lounge. I quickly ran to the lounge, changed my clothes, and covered myself with a quilt to keep warm. When it got light and my colleagues started replying in the group one after another, the temperature had dropped to 5 degrees Celsius at an incredible speed. At the same time, the National Meteorological Administration issued a meteorological anomaly warning due to the disturbance of the polar vortex by unknown factors. With the assistance of the westerly jet stream, the polar cold air rushed southward, causing a large-scale cold wave invasion in the northern hemisphere. It is estimated that the temperature will continue to drop in the coming period. Please, the general public, stay vigilant and do a good job in cold protection. I had originally thought it was just a cold air mass, but this rain led to floods, and as a result, transportation was almost paralyzed. Workplaces were suspended, and schools were closed. Only I was miserably trapped in the company. 3. I didn't know how long this abnormal low-temperature weather would last. I knew very well that I couldn't just sit back and wait for death. At least, I couldn't freeze to death or starve to death in this situation. Fortunately, because of the company's picnic plan, the administration had prepared a lot of food, which was piled up in the pantry. There must also be many things on my colleagues' workstations that could be used in the cold weather. As soon as I regained consciousness, I immediately jumped out of bed to search for supplies. In the pantry, I found 5 buckets of drinking water, 2 boxes of beverages, a bucket of instant coffee, and an electric kettle. There were 5 large boxes of fruit platters, a box of instant noodles in barrels, and a box of self-heating hot pot. The rest were some snacks such as biscuits, nuts, dried tofu, marinated food, and dried fruits. After taking inventory, I immediately went to my colleagues' workstations one by one. I also found 30 pieces of warm baby patches, a box of Hololand cakes, 3 hand warmers, 2 power banks, 3 lighters, a box of band-aids, several cold medicines, antipyretics, and various vitamins, as well as some sanitary napkins and toilet paper. I even found a bottle of quick-acting heart-saving pills in one of my colleagues' workstations. I ransacked every corner of the company, and even the boss's office was completely emptied by me. That lush fortune tree was also moved into the shooting studio by me. Fortunately, the shooting studio was spacious, and I also dragged the sofa bed from the lounge into it. The walls of the shooting studio were installed with thermostatic materials, and I moved all the supplies I had collected into it. We were an advertising company. Recently, we had cooperated with a certain down product company. The shooting studio was piled up with various warm keeping equipment, including air conditioners, small heaters, and even a large number of down quilts and down jackets. My colleagues were still joking that I was really miserable, and the delicious food prepared for the picnic could be regarded as a reward for me. At that time, none of us expected that thanks to those foods, I didn't die in the apocalypse. 2 days later, the heavy rain turned into hail, and the windows on the 19th floor were pounding loudly. After the hail, the temperature dropped to -10 degrees Celsius. The rainwater from the previous few days hadn't been drained in time and had frozen into ice. A blizzard arrived quietly, for I hadn't seen normal sky for several consecutive days. Before, it was a dark mass, and now it was a vast expanse of white. Looking at it for a long time, it seemed that I was about to be sucked into it. The snowplows were humming, and the sounds of police sirens and ambulances were also heard continuously. Under the extreme weather, countless elderly People and children were hospitalized due to illness, and there were also casualties caused by various accidents. I heard that the hospital was already overcrowded, and even the corridors couldn't accommodate more patients. The house I rented was 3 subway stops away from the company, but the subway had already been paralyzed. Moreover, in such extreme weather, the door of my rented house on the first floor was probably blocked by ice and snow. At this time, I began to be glad that I was trapped. In the company, the power supply was still normal now. The air conditioner and small heater in the shooting studio were operating normally. When I ate the self-heating hot pot in the shooting studio wearing a sportswear set, a thin layer of sweat would even break out on my back. This gave me a great sense of security. Who would have thought that things that were ordinary in the past would become particularly precious at this moment? After having enough to eat and drink, I came out of the shooting studio, stood by the window wrapped in a down quilt, endured the biting cold, and watched the maintenance workers on the utility pole not far away, in the vast white sky. His red work clothes were particularly eye-catching, but the outdoor temperature had already reached -25 degrees Celsius. Just by leaning against the window, I felt that the wind blowing in was like a knife cutting across my face. My whole body was frozen stiff and numb, my nose was sore, and I couldn't stop shivering. There was also a strong wind of 8 or 9 levels blowing outside. I tightened my collar, trying to block the cold air that was rushing into my neck. Just as I was looking outside worriedly, the figure on the utility pole was swaying violently in the wind. He hardly had a chance to hold on and fell straight to the ground. I let out a cry of surprise, my heart tightened, and I instinctively closed my eyes. When I opened my eyes again, that red figure had fallen into the ice and snow pile and remained motionless. I'm afraid the extremely cold weather had already frozen him stiff. Falling from such a height, there wasn't even any splashing of blood. I suspected that he had already lost his life before falling. Several people gathered around and seemed to be trying hard to drag him out of the ice and snow. There was no ambulance coming. Half an hour later, a simple flatbed cart took away the body. The snow still hadn't stopped, and soon all the traces were erased. After coming to my senses, regardless of my stiff and numb body from the cold, I quickly rushed back to the shooting studio. All the electrical equipment in the room had stopped operating. Only then did I realize that the power had been cut off. This heavy snow might just be the beginning. The apocalypse had arrived. The temperature was still dropping steadily without showing any sign of stopping. When the power system completely collapsed, there might be only a dead end waiting for me. 5. My phone turned off automatically due to the low temperature. After turning it on, I opened Instagram and was just about to say hello to my colleagues in the company group when I found that many of them had already been anxiously mentioning me in the group. Daisy, are you okay? It seems that the power has been cut off across the city. I have a box of warm baby patches in the drawer of my workstation. You can use them first. I have some too. And I also have a fully charged hand warmer. Daisy, I still have a box of Hololand cakes here. The walls of the shooting studio are installed with thermostatic materials. You can go in there. I also bought a box of self-heating hot pot. The delivery is in the lobby on the first floor. Daisy, you should go and get it quickly before someone else takes it away. Looking at their words of concern one after another, my nose soured and my eyes became hot. What kind colleagues they were, and what a savage person I was. I had already ransacked their workstations, however. Their words also reminded me that in the face of a crisis, there was no time to lose. Our company was on the 19th floor of the office building. Although a weekend had passed, plus the consecutive days of extreme cold, there might be no one left in the whole building, but I wasn't necessarily the only one trapped in the company due to various factors. I thanked them in the Instagram group, and then started searching for heating supplies again: water, clothes, shoes, and lighters, and even all the paper materials and books. In case of being completely trapped in an extremely cold situation, I might need to use the most primitive fire to sustain my life. Now there was only one question left: whether to go to the lobby on the first floor to see if I could collect some more things. To be honest, in an empty office building without power, I was really scared to walk down 19 floors of stairs alone. But if I didn't go, who knew how long this apocalypse would last? If my supplies weren't enough, I might be trapped and die here. After struggling internally for a long time, I steeled myself, put on 2 of the thickest down jackets, and tucked a fruit knife for self-defense. I locked the door of the shooting studio and went downstairs nervously. The corridor, which was originally cold and damp, was now even more bone-chilling. Just by opening my mouth slightly, I felt that my tongue was no longer flexible, and my teeth were chattering involuntarily. My legs were stiff as I walked down the stairs. My whole body was frozen and tense, and my back ached from shivering. Just after turning the corner on the 16th floor, a fierce gust of wind blew in with ice and snow debris, hitting my face hard. The window on the 16th floor had been frozen and cracked at some point, and now it had been blown open by the wind, and I happened to be walking here. I couldn't tell whether it was the wind, snow, or glass debris that rushed towards me. There was a sharp pain in the corners of my eyes and cheeks. My stiff body didn't have time to react at all, and I was knocked down to the ground and rolled down The stairs. 6. My body was so frozen and numb that I didn't feel the pain even after rolling down, but when I rolled down the last step of the stairs, my head hit a sharply angled stone hard. The sharp pain made my eyes spin and I almost fainted. My vision went dark, and I was on the verge of passing out. I instinctively reached out to cover it, and the slightly sticky and wet tip startled me and made me more conscious. It was blood. No, if I fell into a deep sleep, I would definitely freeze to death here. The frozen and cracked window was still violently pouring ice and snow into the corridor. In just a short while, a layer of snow had already accumulated on my body. The snow was not as fluffy as I had known it to be. Instead, it was mixed with ice shards, cold and hard. The wound on my forehead was quickly frozen by the snow, and the bloodstains turned into ice shards. I tried to get up, and a tearing pain shot through my forehead. The temperature was so low that the blood had stuck my skin to the ground. Even a slight movement made me feel as if a plaster stuck to a man's leg. Hair was suddenly torn off. Grimacing, I propped myself up with my hands on the ground, gritted my teeth with my eyes closed, and got up from the ground as quickly as possible. As expected, a piece of blood-stained flesh was stuck to the ground, and even a strand of my hair was torn off. Even though I was numb from the cold, I was already shaking all over from the pain, and tears streamed down my face. I wiped away my tears and picked up the dropped phone. Fortunately, only the tempered glass screen protector was broken, but the blood and tears on my hand smeared onto the screen, and my fingertips were actually frozen to the screen. Although I was born in the north, the lowest temperature in Anqing in winter was only around -10 degrees Celsius. The scene of getting one's tongue stuck to an electric pole when licking it in winter was something I always regarded as a joke. Unexpectedly, I experienced it firsthand this time. I gritted my teeth and pulled my finger away from the screen, and several pieces of the broken tempered glass screen protector came off with it. Fortunately, I stood up and tried, and it seemed that I didn't have any more serious injuries. This also strengthened my determination to search for supplies. While I could still move and while the current temperature wouldn't take my life, I put away my phone, tucked my hands into my sleeves, and continued to lean against the wall and walked downstairs with difficulty. At first, I could encourage myself in my heart, but in the end, I was like a walking corpse, numbly taking steps. The once bustling office building was now silent. When passing by the floors of other companies, I looked at the closed glass doors and the pitch-black interior, and I felt a sense of melancholy. I felt as if I was in a huge mortuary. The horror brought by the end of the world, besides life and death, was also loneliness. I didn't encounter anyone else. The door of the lobby on the first floor was completely sealed by ice and snow, and I couldn't get out at all. There was also a thick layer of ice on the floor of the lobby, and countless tables, chairs, and even branches and shoes were frozen in it. Presumably, the heavy rain at the beginning had poured in and was frozen into ice before it could be drained. The extremely cold temperature was already too much for me who was injured, coupled with walking down 19 floors in one go. At this moment, my two legs felt as if they didn't belong to me. Every step I took made me feel as if my body was about to fall apart, and I couldn't even control the direction, but I didn't dare to stop. I was afraid that if I stopped, I would never be able to move again. 7. The long table where express deliveries and takeout were placed was in a mess, and many things had been washed away. I didn't find the self-heating hot pot that my colleague mentioned, but I dug out a lot of instant noodles, chocolates, cakes frozen into ice cubes, some sanitary products, a pack of warm baby patches, as well as lighters and candles, and even a radio. In addition, there was a whole box of mineral water and a lot of steamed buns frozen into ice cubes here. Unfortunately, I didn't have the strength to carry them upstairs, so I could only give up the large items and take the relatively light ones. However, to my excitement, I also found a whole box of glucose in the security guard uncle's drawer. The 12th floor was a self-media company with many anchors. They often had gatherings and got so drunk that they staggered around, hugging the crooked neck tree at the door and vomiting profusely. The security guard uncle was a kind person and often took care of them. These glucose bottles were probably prepared for these people. I originally didn't want to waste it, but I was really exhausted. When I thought that I still had to climb 19 floors later, I decisively took out a bottle. It had already frozen into ice inside. There was no other way. I used the back of the fruit knife to hit the glass bottle hard and carefully picked out the glucose from the broken glass and swallowed it. It was like a sharp knife tip cutting my tongue. The last bit of body heat I had was taken away by the ice in my mouth. It took a long time for the ice to melt a little. However, my tongue was so numb from the cold that I couldn't taste anything. I just felt a sharp pain from my throat to my stomach. I stuck a warm baby patch on my chest, picked up a bag from the ground, casually put the things I found into it, and started to go back. Going upstairs was much more tiring than going downstairs. In the end, I didn't have the strength to stand up, dragging a bag of supplies. I crawled on the stairs like a devout pilgrim, inching my way up bit by bit. My brain had almost lost the ability to think, and only the instinct to survive kept me going. I stopped several times, with a dull pain in my chest and my vision blurry. It was only when I felt the cold wind blowing in from the broken window on the 16th floor that I became a little more awake. It's almost there. I'm almost there. I barely held my breath and climbed up, but I found that there wasn't as much snow blowing into the corridor as I had expected. I was delighted. Could it be that the snow was going to stop? This thought gave me great courage, even though my hands were stuck to the ice layer in the corridor and almost became a bloody mess. I didn't stop. The 17th floor, the 18th floor, the 19th floor. I crawled awkwardly and laboriously towards the thick glass door of the company. Just as I was struggling to take out the key to open the door, something suddenly grabbed my ankle. A surge of uncontrollable fear shot up my back. I instinctively let out a scream, kicking and struggling desperately while looking back. A strange man emerged from nowhere. At this moment, he was staring with his eyes wide open, kneeling on one knee on the ground, and holding my ankle tightly. His face was purple and ugly, and his lips were pale and chapped. The sound he made was also extremely hoarse, like a crow flying out of hell. Hand over the supplies, or I'll kill you. 8. He was only wearing a fitness short-sleeved shirt, and the exposed muscles no longer had a normal skin color. His whole body was purple, covered with wounds. The bloodstains were mixed with ice shards and frozen together with his flesh. It was only when I saw the logo on his clothes clearly that I recognized that he was the owner of the gym upstairs. I had originally applied for a membership card with him and asked him to be my personal trainer. Unexpectedly, on the first day of the class, he started to act inappropriately towards me with ill intentions. I immediately said I wanted a refund, but he didn't care. He looked me up and down in my fitness clothes and sneered at me. I still remember that sentence. "Aren't you dressed like this just to show it to me?" Later, I called the police directly and managed to get my membership fee back. Since then, I had a feud with him. Holding a grudge, he directly came to my company to cause trouble. He smashed my workstation and used foul language to slander me, saying that I had slept with him and then cheated on him. It was several male colleagues who joined forces to drive him out. Unexpectedly, like enemies crossing paths, we met at this moment. I was both panicked and scared, and I kicked and fought even more frantically, but I had just climbed 19 floors and was already exhausted. I was no match for the gym trainer at all. Moreover, he was certain that I had supplies. At such a critical moment of life and death, a beast like him would never let me go easily. I was grabbed by him, and my knee hit the ground violently. I gasped in pain. He took the opportunity to stagger up and tried to rush inside. Fortunately, no matter how strong he was, after all, he had been wearing a short-sleeved shirt and had been frozen for several days. Presumably, he didn't have much to eat either, so his combat effectiveness had been greatly reduced. Without hesitation, I pulled out the fruit knife and stabbed straight at his face. While he was dodging, I kicked away the hand that was holding me, opened the door in a hurry and rushed inside. Then I quickly and tremblingly picked up the U-shaped anti-theft lock, trying to lock the door from the inside. My hands had lost all feeling and wouldn't obey my commands at all. He forcibly stretched his arm in to block the door crack and snatched the fruit knife from me, stabbing towards my abdomen. I grabbed the door handle with all my strength and squeezed it hard. There was a click sound, and then came his painful and angry howl. I thought his arm might be broken. I didn't dare to hesitate. I kicked his hand away and quickly locked the door. I was almost the one locked outside. I'm not that kind-hearted. In the face of the end of the world, no one can guarantee how long they can live. In the face of such a beast, too. Bottles of glucose were already the greatest kindness I could show. Please, give me some more food. I was wrong about what happened last time. I'm not a good person. Don't be like me. I don't want to die. I'm so cold. I threw him a quilt and told him that there were steamed buns and water on the first floor. However, whether he could survive or not depended on his luck. The thick glass door of the company used bank-level bulletproof glass, and there was no way he could break it. I ignored the pleas and curses behind me and stumbled back to the shooting studio. Without electricity and without hot water, I was almost unable to hold on any longer. 9. This was the 7th day I was trapped in the company. The air conditioner had long since become a useless ornament. The 2G signal on my phone was intermittent, sometimes there and sometimes not. The outdoor temperature had dropped to -30 degrees Celsius. My forehead and hands were a bloody mess. I didn't dare to be careless, so I rummaged through the collected medicines and found some anti-inflammatory tablets and iodine cotton swabs. Even though the walls of the shooting studio were installed with thermostatic materials, all the liquids had long since frozen into ice. I stuffed the cotton swabs against my chest where I had stuck a warm baby patch, trying to thaw them. Then I took a lighter to the pantry and lit a pile of paper materials in a copper basin. The long-lost firelight rose up with a rush of warmth. I didn't dare to waste it, so I quickly placed 2 bottles of water against the wall of the basin. Those materials were the result of my countless overtime hours. Now, I only wish they didn't burn so quickly. Seeing that the firelight was about to disappear in an instant, I immediately pulled out the boss's fortune tree, removed the frozen and hard leaves, and chopped off a short and thick section of the tree trunk to use as firewood. At this moment, I was very grateful that the administrative girl newly hired by the boss recently was someone who didn't pay attention to her work, because Since she joined the company, this fortune tree hadn't been watered and was almost dead. If I had really met someone diligent, where would I find firewood to burn now? Black smoke filled the air, making my eyes dry, painful, and filled with tears. I covered my mouth and nose and picked some cakes to roast, trying to soften them a bit. After struggling for a long time, the whole pantry was filled with smoke, and I was almost choked unconscious. Fortunately, the mineral water had finally melted a little, and I could break open the iodine cotton swabs that I had held against my chest and squeeze out some of the liquid. I gnawed on the still cold and hard cake with difficulty, took the medicine, and wiped the iodine for disinfection. After doing all this, I quickly returned to the sofa in the shooting studio, changed into a clean down jacket, took out 4 down quilts, and covered myself tightly, not even showing a strand of hair. My phone occasionally pushed the current situation. The blizzard had turned into a heavy snow, but there was no sign of it stopping. Instead, the wind was getting stronger, and the temperature was still dropping. According to official predictions, the temperature would drop below -40°C within 48 hours. The ice layer and snow on the road were already close to 1 meter thick. The water pipes had burst, and the pipes were full of ice. The relevant departments had never given up on repairing the power system, but the entire power grid was completely damaged and paralyzed, and currently, there were insufficient human and material resources. Restoring the power supply was almost a fantasy at present. They could only first choose places such as hospitals and the military to install generators and set up emergency shelters to ensure the backbone strength of doctors and soldiers, so as to lay a solid foundation for the broad masses of the people. However, the current situation was not optimistic, and the rescue operation was very difficult. This disaster came fiercely, and people were completely unprepared. In just 1 week, countless elderly people and children couldn't withstand the extreme cold and passed away in their sleep. My stiff fingers slid laboriously on the screen, and it took a long time to refresh before I received an Instagram message. A message popped up in the company group. Has Cora already? My heart tightened, and I quickly scrolled up. Above more than 30 messages was a voice message sent by my colleague Cora in a trembling voice. There's no food and no water left. I'm eating snow now. I can't see clearly and I'm so sleepy. I don't have to work overtime anymore. There were a few scattered messages of anxious concern from my colleagues following that, but Cora never replied again. 10. I covered the quilt tightly and once again was glad that I hadn't gone back to my rented house. There were a total of 36 people in the company group, and now only 19 of them still had occasional news. In order to encourage each other,